Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name is Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. I see Mr. Man, D, Cat, Tim. Who else? Jay. All sorts of people here. D, how are you? Oh, look at Birmingham. Cat is bringing more Brits in the house these days, which is cool. To my right is Shadow the Night Owl, for those who don't know. Because after all, we do this stream pretty late, don't we? Or pretty early for the people across the pond, you might say. Shadow the Night Owl likes hootie snacks, likes and super chats and super stickers and channel memberships. Help pay for those hootie snacks. I know Cat likes the owl. I do too. It came on my doorstep the other day. The universe sent it to me, and I said, you know what? It should have a home. I just hope I get it to stay properly. Miss Kim, welcome. Private eyes are watching you, Cat. They see your every move. Snow Baby, welcome. Rose, welcome. Yep, I made it a point to start a little bit earlier today. Thank you, Miss Kim. I really appreciated it as a gift. And I think that could be part of the merch that I sell at a point too, would be wands and maybe Shadow the Night Owls. I think that would be pretty cool. But how are you all today? Got my sparkling water here. Bubbly, grapefruit, bubbly, sparkling water. The cool part about England is it's one country, but there's so many different accents in the country. And it's so small compared to America. Ramajama, what's shaking? Renee? Welcome, Renee. We're very glad you found us. We are a good bunch here. A flock of black sheep, as I call them. I am the shepherd of black sheep. I try to make sure everyone feels welcomed and encouraged. We are an eccentric group, too. But eccentric in a good way, right, Rammer? Hedwig. Hello there, 11. How are you? I drink a Diet Coke a day. You know, it's the aspartame that's really bad. I think what it does in the NutraSweet, it spikes your blood sugar and mimics it. And then what happens is when you crash, then you're hungry for junk food. At least that's what's happened to me. Gilmore, good day from Sydney, Australia. We got Australia in the house, England from the house. A lot of the British Empire in the house, the former British Empire in some cases. Coke Zero does taste pretty good, though. I'll give it that. So, in the couple videos we're going to go over today, yes, D, Canada, part of the British Empire. They are adherent to the crown. Then he must dream they kissed Jared. Last night, or was that just me? I was like, I blame the meditation video I fell asleep to. Ooh, Cat. Ooh. Roll Tide, Rema. Roll Tide, Nick Saban. Next thing you know, Cat, we'll be doing ASMR with Jared. Poetry reads with Jared and Shadow the Night Owl. Soothing everyone to sleep. Kidnapping works. Phoenix kidnapping booms. Used the #1 in family restaurants. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Cat, there's no such thing as too much time in these lives, of course. And if you want to win, you got to learn how to play head games. Is that what you're saying, Kat? Just you and me, baby? Head games? Where is Rooster? I don't see Rooster. There he is. I see 145 in here and 14 likes. Let's start this off right. Hit the like button on your way in. That's damn straight, Rooster. Likes are free out there. Leave your DNA on that like button. Spank the like button if you're feeling a little bit frisky, of which Cat might. You know he ain't gonna die, Cat. And make sure you subscribe if you're not already. And like I always say, we go live a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern, 5 or 6 nights a week to talk about true crime and current events. I use my unique experience with mental health, addiction, narcissistic abuse, and narcissistic family systems to apply my unique insight to those things. And as always, Super Chat's a great way to support the channel and get questions answered. Super Stickers, great way to support the channel. And becoming a channel member gives you access to the members-only live streams, which I think there should be another one this week. And don't worry, Fat Chat, I'll smile today. Yesterday, well, I think I smile a fair amount. But sometimes people have it in their heads that I need to smile more. And to which I say, never in the history of being told to smile more has anyone ever wanted to smile more, right? Mongoose, welcome. Italian, welcome. What did Kim say? Jen N. Welcome, Jen N. If you want to win, Kat, you got to learn how to play games. The time never seems right to talk about why you and I fight. Daily Watcher, welcome. We have a lot of daily watchers here. You'll fit right in. But let's hop into Brian Entin here, and then we'll hop into Ashleigh Banfield after that. Smash that like button. Smash that like button if you wish Sheriff Nanos would have collected that mat on the front step into evidence sooner. And if you haven't caught on already, folks, I talk a lot in music lyrics and movie quotes. Not everyone can keep up with it. Kat does pretty good at it. Yes. Arizona going back to the dry desert.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. Today is day 57 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm actually in the airport right now. I am on my way back to Arizona to look into a couple of new things involving the Nancy Guthrie case. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. It's actually busy in the airport, but the TSA lines, you always hear about how bad they are, but I got through really, really fast. So that was a relief. I got to the airport super early, but made it through quickly. In this episode, a couple of things. There was this deputy in Pima County who was arrested for kidnapping, actually, it's a crazy story. I'm going to explain to you the circumstances in that. A lot of people are sort of thinking, could it be connected to the Nancy Guthrie case because it's a kidnapping charge? I don't think so. You'll hear why when I explain it in a second. Also, a couple of new things that Savannah Guthrie said in the Dateline episode over the weekend that I'm going to talk about. And I have my friend and retired FBI agent Steve Moore on to kind of go over some of these new things that Savannah said, and also some of what she said at the end of last week, just, the back doors being propped open, Nancy not having any shoes on and the pajamas. I wanted to get his take on a lot of those things. So I'm going to get into all of it in this episode of Brian Entin Investigates. Hey guys, so again, I'm in the airport.
So that person he showed there, he's going to go into it in a minute, but that was a deputy that was arrested. And that was the person that was kidnapping the woman that was arrested. And he was telling her, I can help you out with your case if you go sleep with me in the hotel room. Then he showed her explicit material from his phone, asked her to show him her boobs, and she did. So he got arrested and fired, and rightfully so. But it's pretty disappointing that that kind of person was able to squeak through the cracks of the Pima County law enforcement. I mean, it seems like he was 22 years old. He was probably waiting to do this for a long time if he hadn't done it already. Tech, welcome.
Headed back to Arizona. Going to get to a couple of things here. First of all, that arrest that everybody's talking about, this deputy who was arrested in Pima County for kidnapping. Again, no indication it's connected to Nancy Guthrie at all, but just still interesting since it's a kidnapping charge.
Mr. Reynolds, this is the time for your initial appearance. You were here this morning on charges of kidnapping. That is.
And to be clear, as of right now, there is no connection between this and Nancy Guthrie. It is just interesting that someone in that same department is being arrested for kidnapping. So let's see how it unfolds.
It's a felony offense. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
So his name is 22-year-old Travis Reynolds. According to an interim complaint, Reynolds was transporting a female detainee to the Pima County Jail when he allegedly made inappropriate remarks about her appearance. He allegedly shared a vape pen with the handcuffed woman and told her that he could help her with her case, and allegedly suggested that they go to a hotel and have sex. Detectives allege that Reynolds also showed the woman explicit videos and delayed taking her to jail. And she said that she felt intimidated. This is what prosecutors said at the hearing.
This particular offense that is alleged is very, very concerning. Given the occupation of the accused and the power dynamics between him and the victim, there's indications that this might have happened before. The victim would like to see he shouldn't be returning back to the jail or the incident.
So there's apparently some evidence it happened before too, which is not surprising from this guy.
Location, no weapons, no contact. The victim in this case is very afraid of this defendant because of that power position that he had, of the power dynamics, and that he might retaliate against her.
So again, on the surface level, just from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the Nancy Guthrie case. But again, interesting as a kidnapping charge. Interesting that you've got a Pima County deputy who would do something like this allegedly. So I'll stay on top of it, but wanted to get you guys updated on that. Also, you guys remember there was the Savannah Guthrie interview at the end of last week on the Today Show. Well, there was also a Dateline episode this weekend where there was more of the interview that was aired, and I wanted to give you guys some of the highlights. She talked a lot about her sister Annie and her brother-in-law Tommaso, and how her mom Nancy wanted to remain independent. And one thing that was comforting is that Annie and Tommaso lived so close to Nancy that they were able to keep an eye on her and look after her. She said that no one took better care of my mom than my sister and brother-in-law, which I thought was really interesting. Just because obviously there's been all these rumors and speculation about is a family member possibly involved. And it seems like she's really gone out of her way to defend, especially her brother-in-law, saying that no one took better care of Nancy than her sister and her brother-in-law, Tommaso. She also said that Annie, and she calls him Tommy, Tommaso Tommy, made it possible for Nancy to stay in the house that she loved because they were close to her. They let her have her space, but And
did you hear what he just said? He said that Savannah said Annie took great care of their mother. So it sounds like she's basically saying that to combat the people that were saying Tommaso or Annie are definitely involved somehow. I mean, Savannah clearly didn't like that. And again, she hasn't said anything that we've heard about Ashleigh Banfield, but Megyn Kelly did say Savannah was unhappy with Ashleigh Banfield for saying Tommaso was maybe a prime suspect.
Obviously, they just lived like 10 minutes away. So it sounds like they were really the primary ones, just because they were so close, who kept an eye on Nancy. So that was the new stuff that I caught from the Dateline episode. Obviously, there was the stuff that Savannah said at the end of last week, that the back doors plural, were propped open when Annie and Tommaso arrived, that Nancy was taken in her pajamas with no shoes on, her phone and wallet and personal items were left behind. And I wanted to talk to retired FBI agent Steve Moore, a friend of mine, about some of these new revelations, what it means to him, what he thinks all of this means to the investigation. How coordinated was Savannah's interview with the FBI? Could her interview and her going back to the Today Show impact the investigation maybe in a good way? So this is my conversation with Steve. Steve, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it as always. I mean, this Savannah interview, it's just, I mean, the anguish that she is facing and has been, and the fact that it's now been almost 2 months, and her strength. I mean, I've got a lot of emotions coming out of it. But in terms of the investigation, there was some new information that came out, and I kind of want to go through a few of these items with you and get your take. The back door, and she said doors actually plural, the back doors were propped open, she said, when her sister and brother-in-law arrived and Nancy was gone. What do you make of that?
So chat, what do you make of that? The back doors are propped open. What do you think that means? Do you think they came in through the back door? Do you think they were just, I don't know, wanting to leave them open for some other reason? Is it just a coincidence? Was it laziness? What do you think it was? Let us know in the chat. And the question again is, why do you think they propped the back doors open and then kept them propped open? I mean, why not close them? I don't know. But what do you think?
I mean, that doesn't make sense to what I know. So what I know to be true, or at least alleged to be true from the investigation, because Nancy, there was some blood belonging to Nancy on the front porch. So why, in the front porch is where the camera was. If you could get into the back door, in and out of the back door, why would you even use the front? So there would be a lot of questions I would have. Number one, was there any indication of entry marks, breaking and entering, or whether was that door unlocked in the back? That would be important to know. The other thing is, how were the doors propped open? If they were propped open by a mechanism that exists on the door, then you got to ask, how did they know that? How did they know that in advance? If it was propped open by wedges or something.
And that's a good question. How were they propped open? Because depending on how that door works, it might imply that they knew how it worked already. And if they knew how it worked already, that implies that either someone that knew her was involved or someone that knew her hired someone, right? That, to me, that's what that implies. If there was a mechanism there that only someone who already knew about it would be able to do. Also, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Leave your DNA in the like button, and likes are for my friend here, Shadow the Night Owl. Helps him to get some hootie snacks. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat, will you? We've got a great group of people here.
Something like that they brought with them, say in a backpack, then you're saying this person has cased the house and knows they want to prop those doors open. If they propped them open with just one of Nancy's shoes or a chair or something like that, it would lead me to believe it was more of an impromptu decision. And that's, law enforcement is going to be trying to find out through every single bit of evidence they have, was this highly cased, highly prepared for, or were these a bunch of, fools who came in and thought that they could make $1 million and likely have ended up taking the life of an innocent person?
One thing that I thought about, just kind of visually seeing the house in my mind, is, we saw obviously the suspect go to the front door on the camera, and the camera got pulled. And we know there's a security gate on the front door. Could they have gone in through the back and that was the way in, and then taken her out the front, unlocked the front from the inside? And because you could pull a car right up to the front door there. That's where the driveway goes, which would kind of make sense if she's got these mobility issues. Savannah said she can't even walk to the mailbox most days. So maybe they got in through the back and took her out through the front.
Yeah, and I totally understand that concept and why that would seem to be a logical thing. Two things I would have to ask before I could come down with all my weight on the ice on that one is number one, if they were bringing her out the front and they were both ambulatory themselves, why do they need two doors blocked open? Having doors blocked open means you're taking something out of them and you can't use your hands to keep the doors open. And it would be wider than, say, one person. So maybe two people carrying somebody out, things like that. So that would lead me to believe that the back door is how they took her out. However, there's blood on the front porch. And as far as could they have gotten in through that gated door?
There's so many things about this case that just don't make much sense, right? Prop doors in the back. Why? Because they had to do a change of plans. They wanted to bring her out through the back and they changed their mind and said, nah, screw that. Let's go out through the front. I mean, let's think about this for a minute. Let's put ourselves in an abductor's shoes. Maybe you don't want to take her out the front door because you think it'll be more likely someone sees you, right? That's what I would think. So you'd want to go out the back door. And then maybe you were thinking about driving the car around, but then you're like, well, maybe that would cause and bring too much attention to us, right? So they said, okay, well, maybe they couldn't fit her out the back door for whatever reason. So they said, all right, well, I guess we have to go out the front door now. I don't know. I mean, that's just a possibility, but I just don't know.
It would depend on two things. Number one, did she lock it? And a lot of people don't. The other thing would be, how is that gated door locked? Is there a key on the outside and a little switch type mechanism on the inside? Or is there a key on the outside and the inside? Because if it was locked on the outside and the inside, they couldn't have gotten out that door unless they knew where the key was, unless Nancy gave it to them. So the problem is, for me, seeing blood on the front porch and the fact that, yeah, it probably would have been a lot easier to get the car right by the front door, makes a lot of sense for the front door. A propped open back door flies in the face of that, really. I don't know what else you're trying to get out of there, unless they made it, they changed their mind in the middle of this, which is also an indication of amateurs. So I'm just not sure where this goes. If you could get in through the back door, why would you go anywhere where there was a camera? Yeah. I don't.
Now, all of the law enforcement officials have said, the former FBI detectives, so many things this person did, they said, sounds like an amateur. But here's the thing. I mean, amateur or not, they haven't been caught, and there's no sign of Nancy. So if they truly are just amateurs, it's either they're extremely lucky or maybe they're not amateurs. So what do you think, though, chat? Do you think they're amateurs, or do you think like they're just been lucky? What do you think? I really don't know what to think. I think what's happened in reality is, okay, you can say they did this wrong, that wrong, this wrong, but they've still gotten away with it so far. So what do you think? Do you think they're amateurs that got lucky? Or do you think, no, this is actually someone that's a little more calculated and professional? So press 1 if you think they're amateurs that got lucky. Press 2 if no, I think maybe they were more professional.
Get that either. I mean, and your average burglar knows right away now that the first thing you're going to be dealing with is in most places is a ring camera at any place that has valuables enough to take.
And she said that her brother, who was a fighter pilot and also worked in intelligence, apparently was very quick to say, I think that she was kidnapped, even on the phone with Savannah, which I guess some have been critical of that. Like, oh, how would he know that so soon? But that didn't really surprise me, actually. I mean, if you're getting the call that the back doors are propped open, there's blood on the front porch, your mom who can't even walk to the mailbox has disappeared, I would probably think the same thing.
I would too. I mean, what you have to come down to is you have to eliminate very quickly any other motive. I mean, does she have money? No, Nancy does, or Savannah does. Has she made anybody angry? Not bloody likely. It comes all the way down. You step down for all.
So it seems like most people think they were hired / professional. So about 4 or 5 people think, no, they were amateurs that got lucky.
Possible motives, and there's only 1 or 2 left, and one of them, sexual assault or something you don't even want to talk about, and kidnapping would not even come into the equation unless there was somebody in her family, in Nancy's family, who was well known and perceived, at least, as very wealthy.
Right, that would be Savannah. I mean, and like she said in
Right.
the interview, she's coming to terms with that, which was kind of one of the more emotional parts. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine the guilt she's feeling, which is
I can only imagine it. I've never been through that. I hope I never do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. She also said that she was taken in her pajamas with no shoes on. I guess I wondered how she would know that, but it would make sense, I guess, if she's older and wears probably the same couple of pairs of shoes, and the sister Annie helps take care of her, you would know what shoes she wears, and the shoes are there. But what did that say to you?
That they had inventoried her clothes and her slippers and things like that as well as they could. And I know from taking care of my elderly parents, at a point you start to know what they're going to be wearing, because though they might have a large closet of clothes that they used to wear, once they become less mobile, they tend to get in the same type of clothing every day and not change comfortable shoes and things like that. So my guess is that there was probably a pair of slippers visible, possibly by the door, or they actually have a footprint of some type of Nancy's. But I'm just speculating as to how they would get it. I'm not trying to infer that that's how they did find it.
In your mind, when you envision this all going down with the information we have, why wouldn't they let her put on her slippers? Whoever did this.
Same reason they wouldn't let her put on her or get her medicine. And that's.
I mean, I think it's because they didn't really have an intention of keeping her alive, unfortunately. Let's face it. If you're there for a hit, how much are you going to care about those other little things that would be for her comfort and her other forms of health if your entire goal is to end her life? And maybe they're thinking, well, the only thing we want to do is just make sure we're not caught. That's all. Maybe bringing slippers just leaves another clue that they don't want to even risk. But what do you think, chat?
That's still something I cannot come up with. It. I mean, if you're going to kidnap somebody, you have to have them alive. I mean, what?
And Casimir, I'm going to need you to go ahead and like the video, please. And I'm going to need your TPS report soon as well. And I might need you to come in on Saturday this week too. Thank you.
Why? Why would you kidnap somebody and not take care of their physical needs? It could be that she was non-ambulatory at that point, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And if that were the case, they wouldn't necessarily want to put slippers on somebody they were carrying. What would be the point? But then you got to think, where are you taking her? And so it chills me, the fact that they're taking her out of the house and not making any efforts towards her long-term comfort or survival.
Or maybe she had these heart issues. You get woken in the middle of the night like that. Maybe she had a heart attack, and this whole plan went awry.
I thought about that, but then I also thought that we might find some indications of that on her pacemaker.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would have, that if that happened still right there in the house and it was still connected to the iWatch or the phone.
Because I think that thing would start hitting hard if she had had a heart attack of some kind.
Yeah, that's
but again, I'm not a cardiologist.
Savannah also said that her phone, purse, personal items were left behind. I guess that plays into what we're talking about. I mean, if she was taken, why would they give her an opportunity to take her phone?
Right. Even if they were going to take her and keep her alive and safe and comfortable, they wouldn't take her phone.
Yeah. The one thing that really surprised me in the interview with Savannah, because a lot of these things I had either heard or kind of expected. I had heard some things about the back door. But the one thing that I was surprised by was that she said that she believes 2 of the ransom notes are legit. Because I was just starting to think that all of those ransom notes were just phony people just trying to get, and I think some of them obviously were. But what do you make of that? That, you know, she believes 2 of them are real.
I think if the FBI was telling her that they didn't believe they were real, she wouldn't believe they were real. Nancy Guthrie is a very intelligent woman, and she is obviously smart enough to take the advice or trust the people in law enforcement who are experts in this. So my guess is that that's something she was told. And this whole ransom note thing has worked as hard as it's been on poor Savannah and her sister and brother and the family. It's been crippling for the kidnappers, because if you say that, or if it comes out in public that you are sending your ransom letters or ransom notes, communications to a very specific organization, say TMZ or the local network affiliate or something like that, then everybody gets that address. If the kidnappers can get that address, you can get that address, and you could probably get it in a 5-minute Google search. If they had somehow obtained the email addresses or communication addresses of anyone in that family, Nancy or her sister or her brother, then they can say it was sent to Nancy, but nobody would know where to send false ones. Right. And so I think the kidnappers made their kidnap notes actually questionable, because they made it that in a way that other people could just pile on and look like theirs. Plus, information was released on the kidnapping notes or the ransom notes that they could mimic.
Yeah, and I was thinking back to what I remember reporting about these notes and learning about them, and we were told there was information in a couple of them that only the kidnapper would know the location of certain things in Nancy's house. So that may be a reason that Savannah is saying.
All right, and that's something they didn't emphasize before then. So they said there were things in the ransom note that only the kidnapper would know. That's interesting. If that's truly what was in it, that might make me change my mind about whether I think they're real or not. But as far as I can tell, and from what I remember, I don't think they were saying that. And maybe Brian's speculating that's what it could have been. And that's the reason why Savannah thinks they might be real, because there's something in them that only the kidnapper would know. But chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't know for sure at all if there was anything in those ransom notes that only the kidnapper would know. I mean, I haven't heard it. If so, have you?
That she thought it was legit. But also, do you remember in that one social media post, Savannah said, "We received your note and this is like a follow-up post, and we understand." And I've just wondered if they communicated that Nancy was no longer with us.
That would be kind of unusual and really kind of macabre, but it wouldn't be out of the question. obviously, whoever sent that, and if it maybe we'll just, for the sake of argument, say it was the kidnapper. They have not been able to prove life, and there's probably a very hard reason for that. And so they made a statement in the second email that they wanted the Guthries and the FBI to understand completely. And you know, so
someone in the chat said that Harvey Levin from TMZ said that, oh, there's something in one of those notes that only they would know. And I guess maybe if I heard that, I just, because it was that source, I'm like, I don't know if I can believe these guys, right? I mean, is TMZ trying to just fabricate something here? I mean, and that's the problem with TMZ sometimes, is you just don't know. Like, oh, are they just being clickbaity here, or are they being truthful? And that's the problem with being that way. I wouldn't have that issue with Brian, because if Brian says something, I trust that he has the integrity to mean what he says. Also, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Leave your DNA in the like button, and likes help pay for Shadow the Night Owl here's Hootie Snacks, HOOTIE. You can also spank the like button if you're feeling a little bit frisky, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and say hello to the flock of black sheep here in the live chat. Very supportive, encouraging, and also eccentric group, but I would have it no other way. And I think they would have it no other way either.
much so that Nancy and the FBI felt the need to say, I'm sorry, Savannah and the FBI felt the need to say, we understand what you're saying. And then she starts, Savannah starts talking about closure. And that to me does not sound like somebody who is still having hopes of getting her back. And I go back to the high school girl from Georgia who was killed in Aruba,
Natalie Holloway.
Natalie Holloway and Joran van der Sloot.
Yeah.
He at first he said, give me some money and I'll help you. And now they wouldn't do that. And then later on, he said, if you pay me money, I will lead you to her body. So at that point, maybe they changed the negotiating point to, we will show you where to find her. Again, this is just speculation. This is what I'm doing, looking in, and I am in no way, shape, or form trying to say this is what the FBI is dealing with. But these are things that would lead me to believe that that's what the FBI might have been dealing with.
Are you surprised the FBI wasn't able to trace? I mean, we know that these notes went to at least the local TV stations, and they weren't direct emails. They went through like a contact us form, from what I was told. But are you surprised that I guess I still would have thought the FBI would have had some way to track the person down through the note?
Yeah, I'm surprised, but even in the few years since I've left the FBI, technology has just raced forward. And so I may be having a little bit of the 24 syndrome, believing that Kiefer Sutherland has this thing where he can just click it and people's faces come up. When I was in, I remember there were some really specific limitations, at least at some points in my career. For instance, if you got a phone call into a trunk line, say, I think this was in the late 90s, we got a call, a threat through a trunk line where they can just send it off to different extensions and things like that. There was no way we could trace that phone call off of that trunk line just because of the way it was configured. And so there may be electronic and technical digital things that prevent the FBI from getting information.
Makes sense. What do you think it means that Savannah did this interview? And I guess what I'm getting at is, I was thinking to myself, if the FBI was really hot on the trail of someone, would they have advised her not to do this? Like, just please just continue to be quiet. We're almost there. I mean, do you think this is an indication that the investigation is not progressing right now, or could it mean the opposite? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, it could mean that. I'm not sure it is. From my time in the FBI, I just know cases like this were never put down. I mean,
I don't think they're going to put it down, but I'm very curious what Ashleigh Banfield's guest is going to say, because I heard some interesting things about that interview we're going to play next. But they simultaneously said, it sounds like, no evidence, but they collected things. So I'm like, well, which one is it then? So I'm a little confused about that. But I agree, they're not going to put this case down. But I know they're not telling us everything. But there's still a lot of things that they're just not giving me any hope right now. I mean, the only hope is this genetic genealogy. They got to hope one of the samples is over 28% of one person so they can at least run it. But outside of that, what are they even hoping for? They couldn't get Nest Cam footage from the other Nest Cams. They only got thumbnails, and they weren't even from the night of the abduction. So I just don't know what we're even holding out for. Someone finding the person with the tattoo? I mean, chat, what do you think is the most promising lead right now? And I use that term lead very loosely because to me, it's borderline, if you could even call them leads. But what is the thing that gives you the most hope in this case? Is it the DNA? Is it Nest Cam footage? Is it what? What else is even left? The tattoo? Someone folding for the reward money? What do you think is going to be the most promising thing?
hard things are when you're an agent working these things is forcing yourself to go home and go to sleep, and you wake up in the middle of the night saying, what am I doing here? I better get back to work. And the agents tend not to let go of this, especially when they become close to the family and they're frustrated by not being able to find it. It becomes like Moby Dick to Captain Ahab. It becomes an obsession for them. And so I don't for 1 minute believe that even if they've reduced the number of agents assigned to the case, that they are expending any less efforts on it. So what I would suggest is that Savannah realizes that she has to resume her normal life, and she just can't appear one day.
Love to travel. This is a good question. I'm going to pull it up here. If someone folds for the reward money, won't they automatically be considered a suspect? Not necessarily. It could be someone that they would say, well, the person who did it is someone I know. Maybe a boyfriend or a husband or something, or a family member of that person. So that's a possibility. Doesn't mean it's necessarily them. But a good question, though.
On to today's show and say, I'm back. There has to be some closure, for not closure, but at least some type of agreement on where she is, that she is still in a hard place, nothing's resolved, but I have to go on with life. And I think that was a way of saying, I'm going to resume my life one of these days soon, and you're part of that life. You deserve to know where I am, to all the people who follow her. And I believe that probably the FBI, anytime Savannah would say anything to the press, the FBI probably sees it as an opportunity to send messages to potential kidnappers, and they may have had a part in that. I'd be surprised if they didn't, but they're certainly not going to tell Savannah to say the FBI is doing a good job or the sheriffs are doing a good job and all this. That's not what they're there for. They are there simply to say, appeal to somebody. There is the kidnappers may not have or the people takers may not have a conscience at all. They may just be incredibly evil people.
Finally, someone said it. because so many times people were trying to appeal to the humanity of the abductors slash kidnappers slash murderers. That's the wrong thing to try to appeal to. If someone's already willing to do this, I mean, you're not talking to someone that's got a lot of empathy here, right? You're not talking to someone that's going to be compelled by appeals to emotion. Now, this person's cold, calculated, probably remorseless, if I had to guess. So I'm glad this guy said it. This is former FBI agent Steve Moore, I think Brian Entin said his name is.
But somewhere, somebody down the line that knows them does. And eventually that may be where the break in this case comes.
Do you think the interview, I mean, we're all hopeful that it will make a difference, but I'm just thinking the $1 million reward has been out there for a while. Does her speaking this way, do you think it could actually persuade someone?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility. At this point, early on in the case, you say that's a low probability. At this point, you'd say any probability is worth doing. You don't go.
And I agree with that. Any probability is worth doing, though I do think it's low. I do think it's low at this point. These probabilities of appealing to emotion, appealing to the financial gain, because you got to face it. Anyone who knows the person that did this, if they're connected to any kinds of law enforcement of organized crime, that person's in danger. Like, they're not going to let you just go in there and collect reward money and then go off into the sunset. If you're connected to the mob, what are they going to do? They're going to hunt you down, is what they're going to do. So again, that's only if they're connected to organized crime. But imagine if this were an episode of The Wire or Sopranos. What would they do? They would kill him. Of course, this is what they would do. And real life would be exactly the same. In The Wire, they would kill people if they even thought you talked to the police once. Even if you didn't rat, they would still kill you just in case for being too friendly to them.
For the best shot, you go for the only shots you have. And so I think that's where we are with this one. And I think it could, as much as this is, follow me on this, but as much as this is wearing Savannah and her family down terribly, you saw that she is not giving up. She is not surrendering. Even if she gets no closure on this, she is not surrendering herself to the kidnapper. She is not taking away her own kid's mother just because of what they did. She is strong. She is continuing. These are in the worst times of her life, you are seeing the best of her coming out. That's,
yeah, for
I
sure.
think, the best thing you can say about somebody. The type of people who take people like Nancy, when things get tough, they get worse. They are cowards from the beginning, and sooner or later, something's going to break. And people who are watching this, who have a suspicion even that, this, geez, it sounds like this thing over here. Sooner or later, somebody's going to do it. And I think the fact that they haven't done it for money means that the best chance to get them would to be decency.
Do you think when she gets to, she says she's going to go back on April 6th at the Today Show. So she'll be on it, every morning, I guess, like she was before. And she becomes a part of so many Americans' lives again. And we see her every day. Could that impact the investigation? I mean, could whoever do this try to reach out to her again because suddenly she's back in, the limelight again on TV every day? Like, do you see that component impacting things?
Yeah, it could be. And right now, I believe probably that the FBI has at least a tentative profile on the person who did this. And so they will have an idea whether this person says, I screwed it up. Nothing happened. I'm going to walk away, go back to my life, and try to live the rest of my.
So that's a good question. I've been saying this for a while, that I think the motive was to punish and get revenge on Savannah for whatever reason. And if that truly is the case, the next question to ask would be, okay, if that was the goal, what do you suggest Savannah does? And I would say, in that case, you don't really want to do too many emotional interviews, unfortunately, right? Because if the goal was to punish you, I mean, they're probably taking glee in that, unfortunately. But what she is going to do, going back to work April 6th, show them that they can't rob you of your joy. Okay, I can approve that. Because that's not giving them what they wanted if the whole goal was punishment, revenge, right? But it's not easy because they took your mother. It's going to leave a mark. I mean, you can't act as if nothing happened completely because it's just not true. You lost your mother. They still don't know where she is. Most likely passed on. And that's going to hurt. And unfortunately, considering their goal was probably to get revenge / a punishment, it worked to that extent. So the only thing left to do would be to find those people, to not let them get away with it, right?
Life and never have a speeding ticket. Or if the person's, wait a minute, you can't brush me aside like that. You can't ignore me. You can't go back to your life. I am in charge of you. This is me controlling you. And if that's the kind of person that they believe this thing is that took Nancy, then yeah, it could cause them to act out a little bit. It's all going to depend on the unknown. What kind of person did this?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like, what's the next chapter in all of this? You know, is there, because it's already such a bizarre case with so many strange twists and turns. And I just think back to when we got the video for the first time from the front doorbell camera. It was just this, like, this is a horror movie moment.
Yes.
Does this all go quiet now, or is there going to be another really dramatic turn? You know, that's kind of what I've been wondering about.
I think it's.
And here's the other thing about it too, right? I mean, of all the ways to get money, if the goal was money and a ransom, this is the way you would do it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that you would take this extremely high risk maneuver just for money. I mean, and even if that was the case, I still would think there has to be a punishment revenge motive in there, because why would you do this for money? It seems like such an extremely high risk thing to do if you're trying to keep her alive and get money. It just doesn't add up to me. I think it's more sinister, I think. Because think about that for a second. Unless you're connected to them, why would you choose this method to try to get money? I mean, of all the crimes, you're going to choose this, an abduction that's going to make a manhunt in America for 50-something days? That's how you're going to try to get money? Really? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Going to be a little bit like the search for the missing Malaysia airliner. What was that, 470 or 370?
Yeah, I mean 370. Yeah, MH370.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is, for the next year or so, a full-time effort on this case. You're going to have, instead, most agents have 5 to 10 cases. Some have 20 cases assigned to them, depending on what they investigate. I would say that you are going to have this case assigned to one or two people who do nothing but this for the next year or two of their career. And so that is a significant, and by the way, that's the minimum. I'm not saying that more won't be. I'm just saying that the FBI is not going to give this to somebody and say, this is one of your 5 cases. They're going to say, no, this is your job right now. And that will continue at full pace as long as incoming evidence and leads justify that. If it goes completely cold and nothing's come in for a year, and you can't make heads or tails of it, they'll probably switch it to a different agent or two and try to see if they can work it. And then what's going to happen is it's going to be possibly semi-dormant. But I think you're talking years down the road. And every time a new piece of information comes in, like Malaysia 370, they're gonna send the boats out back looking for the wreckage.
And side note, some days you gotta dance is a user, a member of the flock of black sheep here. She is the author of that poem that I posted to my shorts today. So if you wanted to find out who the author is, this is her. I'll show you her name here so you can see. Some days you gotta dance. And the name of the poem was A Portrait in Silence. It's about her experience surviving narcissistic abuse, an abusive relationship. Anyone who's been through something similar, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to relate to it. So thank you again, Some Days, for sharing that with us all.
Same way, every time a piece of information comes in that they didn't have before, they're going to compare that to every bit of information they have already. And it's going to be a pretty big spin up each time one of those things happen, but they're not letting it go.
Do you think what she did release that was new, the back door, the no shoes, the pajamas, are those things you think that the FBI cleared? Or do you think, I've also wondered, do you think she thought, you know what, guys, I gave you 2 months and I'm going to do the interview and talk about what I want to talk about now?
Yeah, and that's possible. One thing I've seen that I believe I've seen with Savannah and her family is the willingness to work closely with the FBI. And we've seen families who are terribly aggrieved because of loss not work well with law enforcement, and that doesn't help them. So I've thought that Nancy, that Savannah has really worked well with law enforcement. And I don't picture her as somebody who would at some point say, I've given you your shot. I'm the investigator now. So if she did mention things that were new, like the propped open back doors and things like that, I believe she probably ran it by the FBI, and they may have even offered suggestions about what she might do. The interview itself, I think, was important because we live in kind of a heartless world as far as viewers and audiences are concerned. They will, if she doesn't cry on camera, they'll think that she's stone cold or that she knows something. And if she cries too much, she'll get criticized for that. There is no winning. You can't win the internet because there's too many horrible people on the internet. And so I think the interview, I think they did as well as they possibly could and let the chips fall, simply because they were going to be damned if they did, damned if they didn't.
As always, I really appreciate Steve for taking the time to talk with me. His insight's always so valuable. I appreciate you guys for watching. Again, I'm about to board my flight here soon, but I'll keep you guys posted with anything new that I dig up in Arizona, my podcast on News Nation, and that's about it. So again, the TSA, I was worried about the TSA lines because everybody's like, oh, especially in Fort Lauderdale, there's been some stories about them being really bad, which is where I live. And it was like, there was no line at all. So that was good news. Yep, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. So now we're on to Ashleigh Banfield, but please remember to like the video while you're here. Likes are free. Spank that like button, and likes help me to buy Hootie snacks for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl here. My other one is Swift the Fox from David Deneau. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Super chats are a great way to support the channel and get questions answered. Super stickers, great way to support the channel. And becoming a channel member gives you access to the members-only live streams. And thank you very much for all the support I've been getting so far. We hit 40,000 subscribers earlier this week. Next stop, 50,000, baby.
What the source is. everyone. I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. I have a little treat for you today. On my lap, I'm puppy sitting. Hold on, look. This is Zenyatta. Hi, sweetheart. Want to say hi? Do you want to say hi to everybody? She's 8 weeks.
Aw, puppy sitting. Our mod living does the same thing, puppy sitting.
She's a little golden retriever. She belongs to my neighbor Jane, and I'm babysitting while Jane does a ski patrol event. So she gets to be a part of the podcast. And throughout this podcast, I'll also have a puppy cam, so you'll be able to see her. But can I just tell you, I wish this was like smell-o-vision, because her little breath smells so good. I just had her outside. She had a pee and a poo, didn't you, baby? She did. She had a pee and a poo. And so I think she's going to be okay. But she may want to jump up and run around. So I'll have her on my lap until she's had enough, right? Until you've had enough. So thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. I love having you all. And I'm so appreciative of all you subscribers and also you members. Thank you so much. Zenyatta, and I appreciate it. By the way, yes, if some of you are from a certain age, Zenyatta Mandata, I think that might be part of the name, but apparently Zenyatta means calm. And I can't remember what Jane said about what language, calm. And she is quite calm, this little puppy. She's a little monkey, but she's pretty calm and sweet. So I wanted to come to you tonight, not just because I had this adorable puppy, but I'm puppy sitting, but also because.
And so that puppy is very calm and chill. User, thank you very much for the super chat here for some hootie snacks. You see that? Shadow says thank you. You are the best, user. Let's see here. Yes, super chats, super stickers, becoming a channel member, and likes, and subscribing to the channel all help Shadow the Night Owl get his hootie snacks.
I've got some news that I wanted to bring you from my, do you want to jump down? Do you want to go down and play? I'm going to put her down. I've spoken to my sources. I've been having multiple conversations with my sources in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. And we're at day 56. I'm recording this on the 28th of March, a Saturday. And I heard something that kind of just made me shake my head. And I wanted to come to you. Normally I do this Monday to Friday. On occasion I'll do the Saturday, but I had to do this today because some of you may have heard me say this before. In an investigation, sometimes it's like a duck swimming, right? Above water, the duck is very calm and appears not to be doing anything at all. And below the water, their little paddles are flying, right? Just paddle, 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 paddle. And part of me wondered if that's what's going on in the Nancy Guthrie investigation, that it's calm, it's quiet. You heard an episode from me the other day where an investigator said, we ain't got shit. But they're paddling like crazy, right? Paddling like crazy under the surface, and there's something really going on. And, oh, sweetheart. I can tell you that an investigator on the case has described Nancy Guthrie's home.
And Tron, it is not you. You just told me to do more AI stuff and incorporate those things. And that's just not what I do here. And it's interesting. You're taking credit for other YouTubers' success. That's kind of icky.
This way. But for the blood pattern in that front hall foyer, the droplets that go over the threshold of the front door into her entrance at the front door outside and then down the walkway. But for that, and this man appearing on camera and that camera being taken, nothing else inside the home appears.
Tron, if you tell me what to do again, you'll be banned.
That a crime happened. And the exact words that were spoken to me were this: it's as though, but for those things, it's as though Mrs. Guthrie got up in the middle of the night, out of bed, and walked out of her house and disappeared. And that was such a profound statement to me, because I also assumed there was a lot of evidence in that home that we just don't know about, right? The duck paddles under the water, that there's so much that they've processed and that they're working on and that we don't know about. And what did it look like in her bedroom? And was there a scene of a struggle? Was there sort of a things out of place, knocked out of place, something, right? So
No, that is not what that is. But your response is fairly narcissistic here. See what I mean? Look at that narcissist behavior he has by doing that, being offended. So for those who don't know, Tron said, get rid of the fake Al. You're not Mr. Rogers. So he said that first. And I said, no, don't tell me what to do. And then he comes back with this. If it makes you feel better, ban me. That's your problem, not mine. Antagonistic, baiting, provoking. I have seen this with Tron often, and I've let it go. But this is what happens when you notice something and you let it go. This is how you get rewarded.
Savannah has mentioned back doors propped open, plural. I have a theory about that. It might actually be 2 doors in the same entrance, right? You got the screen door and the heavy door, that kind of thing, or the security door and the heavy door. It might be that it's one entrance with doors, plural, propped open. I don't know if it's multiple entrances, because she has 1, 2, 3 back doors. I know in my podcast before I saw 2 back doors, and then we've since discovered a third one that's very, very hard to see under the awning, but 3 back doors. So anyway, we're unclear as to what Savannah means by back doors, plural, propped open, whether it's multiple entrances or just one entrance with 2 doors, in it. But these clues, other than doors propped open, man on the camera smashed, and this and blood pattern, nothing else. And that has me really flummoxed. I had this vision that there's just a huge scene that was processed inside, some evidence there of what happened. And apparently that's not the case. But I will say this.
Look at this. This is just outrageous. This is now a learning opportunity. So I told Tron to not tell me what to do. And this is what I get. Jared, the truth is you're a sociopath, and that's why you have to ban me to make yourself feel better. I've already had 2 psychologists look at your channel, and they told me that. Ooh. So look at this, trying to make it seem like because I enforced a boundary and said, no, this is what happens. Enforcing a boundary makes me a sociopath. I would like to speak to the psychologists that said that, by the way. I'd like to interview them. But this is just outrageous.
Early in the investigation, like day of, they're showing up. And that may be how the scene presented, right? It may have been early on how the scene presented, even to the FBI and the homicide cops and everybody from Pima County. That's the first thing they see. Like, what the hell happened here? Because it doesn't look like anything. Weeks in, as the FBI gets involved and crime scene investigators, CSI, show up and do, a lot more processing.
And I agree. You shouldn't feed the trolls. I just try to use it as a learning opportunity for people, a teaching opportunity to see, yeah, this is how that can go sometimes. So it's good to know. It's good to be aware of that.
Microscopic kinds of processing. Maybe things look different, but the way that this has been described to me is that it's as vexing to them as it is to the rest of us. Like if they didn't have that blood, and if they didn't have that man on camera, cameras missing, they might have actually thought she just walked out. They might have actually thought that, because that's what it looked like in the home. So it's just, it's frustrating and it's upsetting, because I just wish they had so much more to go on, just wish they had so much more to go on. You hear Savannah and the heartbreak in her voice, the sadness, the frustration, the bewilderment, the bewilderment when she talked about leaving Arizona and flying back to New York and just wondering, where are you, right? Put yourself in her shoes. You can't even imagine what this is like for them, right? For these kids. So hearing that just made it even more of a puzzle. If you saw my episode the other day, an investigator saying, to the progress of how's it going, we ain't got shit. That also is extremely frustrating. How does a guy who looks like a bit of a buffoon, MacGyvering his way around the front, how does that guy get away with this? How is it that the full force of the U.S. government, the feds, and Pima County Sheriff's Department, 400 staff members, agencies, agents, officers, etc., at one point on this case, it's obviously atrophied since, but how is it that this guy can outsmart them, or has he, right? I will say this again. I will say it as often as I can. Come here, sweetheart. Hold on a second. I'll say this again, that somebody knows something. Somebody behaved in a really weird way after February the 1st. Somebody did just some weird things. They weren't right. They were weird. They were behaving in an odd way in the days and weeks after Nancy disappeared. I've mentioned it before. Maybe somebody stole a car to do this because they didn't want their car on camera anywhere. So did you lose your car did you get your car stolen at that time? And maybe they stole it and brought it back, and it's hard to.
So Some Days has a fun fact here that I want to share with you all. I like this. Fun fact: owls pretty much mate for life if they both live. I had a pair in my yard for like 10 years. That's pretty cool. Some Days. I like that. And like I said, I have the owl as the mascot of the channel, and I like the little things that make it more human, right? That's what I like. And sure, some people probably won't like it, but that's okay.
No, but you thought it was weird. You thought you parked somewhere else, and it wasn't, it wasn't in the same spot when you came out the next morning. She's got hiccups. I don't know if you can see this. She's hiccuping and trying to chew my hair. You can't do that. No, you can't. I've forgotten what it's like to have a puppy after Atlas. If many of you have just joined, or if you're watching for the first time, Atlas was my golden doodle, 15 and a half years old. Sweetheart, don't do that. And Atlas was my life, and I lost him in November. We had an Atlas cam. I know a lot of you members and subscribers who've been with me for a while. You watched Atlas. He was a big part of our group. And when I lost him, it was just massive. And I've had this hole in my heart ever since. So when Jane had this event, I said, "Can I babysit Zenyatta?" And she said yes. So I've got Zenyatta. Anyway, I don't even know where I left off. My thought pattern. You take my breath away and my thoughts. What puppy eats hair? I guess puppies eat everything. So this is kind of one of my more unusual podcasts, isn't it? Ew. Anyway, I have forgotten where I was, but I wanted to bring this episode to you because with that information, that they just didn't have anything in the house to indicate that anything had happened. There wasn't a story that was told forensically in that home, at least in the beginnings, right? What does that mean now, especially since, I also had that information from a source that said we ain't got shit as to the progress of the case. What does it mean? And so, look, I'm a journalist, but there are people who do this for a living. And Phil Waters is, retired from the Houston Police Department, homicide detective, worked on over 400 cases. So he knows what he's doing, right? And he sees things in a different way. And so I called him up because I wanted to just get a feel for what he thinks about this news that I got from my sources in the investigation and law enforcement, that it just didn't look like anything had happened. Again, the words are, but for the blood in the front entrance and walking outside down the front walkway, and the camera missing and the man on camera. Ooh, here she goes. my goodness. It just didn't appear that anything had happened. It appeared that she had just up and walked out. So I called Phil because maybe there's something to that he would see differently. I also asked Phil about the other things that I had broken this week. And that was that the Guthrie kids told the police that Mrs. Guthrie would often leave the back doors, plural, unlocked. And that the blood pattern inside the home that I had reported on weeks ago, that there is a blood pattern inside the home that matches the blood pattern outside that front entrance. Well, I learned this week where it is, and it is right across that front threshold of the front door, right? Inside at that front foyer, that blood pattern starts and just continues outside. So I asked him about all of these things, and with his, homicide detective prism, what his thoughts are about all of these things. And here's my conversation with him. Phil, what do you make of that information? Because I'm floored by the fact that there doesn't seem to be any evidence of a crime anywhere in the home except for that front foyer and the front entrance outside and the blood, trail and the man on the camera.
Well, Ashley, I always follow evidence. And so people talking, sources, Savannah mentioning doors being propped open. I mean, those are, I don't know that I would call them evidence from my perspective. They are commentary about that particular scene. And I have always wondered what the interior of the house looked like, because that is something that it's not been shared with us. Now, for the sake of our discussion, we can assume that the source is correct, or the source.
So my magic wand here, they are a reminder to myself and others that little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you won't be able to do the big things right. That's why you see them in my hand or in my ear all the time. It's also a reminder to keep a little bit of magic in each day.
Says are correct about the inside of the house. And there is, to put it in your words, no crime scene. So, but we do have the blood, which indicates something happened in there. And my questions from the beginning and regarding the blood have been, what we knew was that we had the blood droplets. We don't have spatter. We've got some droplets out there, which would, to me, would indicate a probable head wound of some kind. And they're on the exterior. So my first take is that's a storm door. And then there's an interior door on the other side of it.
So that's the two doors, is the same entrance with two doors, both propped open, the same entrance. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, on the back side though, right? On the back side. So my question is were those doors secured? Which would be very odd when you've got the blood, now we're being told, reportedly, on the inside in the same area, and then you got it on the outside, which would indicate what? She was taken out of that door, up the driveway, and put into a vehicle of some kind and took off with her. So that's kind of confusing. So now you have this stuff on the back side where the doors are propped open and so forth. And if that is true.
So he just said that there is a blood pattern very similar on the inside of the front door, like there was on the front porch. And again, we haven't heard that other places, but Ashleigh Banfield did say that too.
Why were they left open? Is it because they left through the front door and they're not going to go back and close those doors? And those doors being open, we have not been told whether there was forced entry or not. So that's my other question. Are the doors on the back side, are there signs of forced entry, or were they just opened up? Now, I think there's been some talk that she would leave doors open and that kind of thing. I've heard that. Don't know if that's true or not, but that is a suggestion, certainly. And if the doors are not forced, then that would seem to indicate that there's something to that particular piece of information. So, but like I said, the doors and the blood, that's I think you've got two separate pieces of evidence in that scene.
Yeah, I can tell you what my sources have told me about the doors. 3 different sources, all saying back door wide open.
Look at this, the puppy cam. Ashleigh Banfield puppy cam.
Singular, not prop, just back door wide open. And my sources also told me that the Guthrie children have reported to the police that their mother frequently would leave her back doors unlocked. So it's possible there might have been somebody who worked in that yard in the back who witnessed Mrs. Guthrie going in and out and maybe not locking doors and thought of an opportunity. And at some point maybe came back and smashed those back lights, because we saw those floodlights in the back dangling and probably inoperable, and made his, his clandestine entry in the dark, knowing that there were cameras on the casita pointing to the backyard, and was able to make entry. But you're right. It is curious why he would leave, why he would prop the doors open. My feeling is that, and this is just my own theory, is that his intention was to prop the doors open and maybe get Mrs. Guthrie out that same way and out to the back garage area and down the driveway to maybe where his waiting car was in the dark, out of view of any camera. But suddenly he realized, I don't think this woman can make it, because Savannah has said on a good day she could get to the mailbox, but most days could not. And he had to rethink now and scramble and rejig the plan. And those back doors and that long walk were now out of it. So now he's thinking out the front door.
Certainly a possibility. I mean, that's the other thing. Is kind of the conundrum here is that there's several scenarios. Savannah's use of the word prop. I mean, does that mean?
But 2 times,
yeah.
and because I thought, was she misspeaking? But she said the word prop.
Well, no, I understand that, but remember, she's getting that information from her sister. So, when you start telling a story and it starts going through the different people, we all know that by the time it gets, the old experiment, right? You start the story at the first person, and then you have them tell the story down to 15 people or a dozen people. By you get to the end of it, it's nowhere near the story you started with. So
yeah, the game of telephone.
Right. So is that her sister's term? It was propped open. Now, it makes more sense to me that the wide open, which means the door was left open. That's just what it means. It was left open. And however it was, now propped makes it sound like there was something, an obstruction put there to keep the door open, right? So there's an implication here. Either way, what we do know, or at least what the sources, if we believe the sources, the door was open. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? So of course, I'm of the school that I don't believe it was a kidnapping. I think that something went horribly wrong inside that house.
So I've agreed with everything he said until this. And again, I guess it's still possible something went wrong, but let's see what he thinks the motive is. And he's also right about that whisper down the line thing too. You start off with a story, you whisper it down the line around the circle, and by the time it gets through 20 people, that story is completely different. So he was pressing Ashleigh about the prop doors and what that really means. Well, Annie is the one that said that to Savannah. And Savannah is the one who said the prop doors. It's like, but is that really true? I don't know. So he's saying don't necessarily take that as certainty that it was definitely the case. And I understand why he's saying that. Also, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Leave your DNA in that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already.
And the crook says, holy crap, what do? I got an 84-year-old woman who is...
Oh, we got a... Thank you very much for the super chat. Some days you got to dance. I should really say the whole thing. Some days you got to dance. Thank you so much. Everyone should check out her poem that I posted to my shorts today. Like I said, it's called what is it called? Portrait of Survival. I gotta look it up. What the title is? I'm terrible. A Portrait in Silence. That's what it is. My apologies. Some days you got to dance. But thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Everyone to check out that poem, A Portrait in Silence.
Injured in some way, and we don't know to the extent of the injury. Did she die there? Was she unconscious there? And now crooks do this all the time. We just got to get rid of a body. And so that's where you have them going through the front door, because that's the quickest way. That's the path of least resistance. The quickest way to a destination is a straight line. So rather than go out the back and come around and do all this finagling, we just go out that front door and get it right to the drive, get to the street, put her in a car, and we're gone. So it's just, there's so many possibilities here, but I'm just trying to follow evidence. And my question is, if the blood at the door in the front in the house, if that's true, was the storm door and that front door, were they unlocked? If they're unlocked, then that's obviously where they came out. But then you got the blood on the other side, which indicates that's where she was taken out that door.
Most people don't realize how exposed their digital lives really are until something goes wrong, like a charge that you didn't make. And by the % off your first month. Yeah. I mean, without question, Mrs. Guthrie, according to my sources, was bleeding in her front foyer. The droplets continued in the exact same pattern over the threshold of the front door, out into the front entrance under the archway, and down that gravel pathway, and then it stops at the driveway. Theoretically, that would be where the car was waiting that took her away. But I mean, it's hard for anybody who games this and tries to figure out exactly what might have happened. The confusing aspect also involves the timeline that the sheriff has given us. Now I start to question everything the sheriff's given us, because so many things have turned out not to be, or he's he's reversed course on it, or he's been just flat out wrong. But his timeline was a camera is disconnected at 1:47 a.m. Doesn't mean it's the front camera. Could be another camera inside the house, because there are apparently cameras inside the house. So a camera is disconnected at 1:47 a.m. and a person appears on a camera at 2:12. And we believe it's an outdoor camera, because the sheriff at one point said, could be an animal, could be a person. So now it's like, well, the animal's not going to be inside. So you must be referring to an outdoor image at 2:12 a.m. And that's why I only thought, if he came in those back doors and intended to go back out those back doors, prop them open to make it easy to walk Mrs. Guthrie out, and then realized she won't make it all the way.
So some days says there hasn't been a search by the family or law enforcement since 24 hours. I don't know if that's exactly the case. I know there was search teams, not the Cajun Navy, but there were volunteer search teams that were looking for things. I don't exactly know what the local law enforcement and the FBI did. I know Maureen was suggesting that they do a grid search, but I'd have to imagine they did something. I mean, what are they doing out there if they're not even looking around the area? Oh, hello there, Matt. Welcome.
Out and around that garage and down the driveway. I got to rethink it. I'm going to bring the car around and I'm going to take her out that front door. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to make sure she doesn't run away. So I'm going to zip tie her or tie her hands and feet or whatever it is at that front hallway, go back out the back door so as not to be seen, and bring that car in, park it outside the purview of that front camera, disable that front camera, and bring her through that front door. Path of least resistance, like you said, short distance, one walkway to the driveway to the waiting car that's just out of the view of the camera. But he's disabled that camera on the way back in through that front door, which I've always assumed was locked, but we can't see that. He may have opened it when he was inside. And if he zip tied Mrs. Guthrie in that front foyer, that might have caused her to bleed because she's 84 and her skin is fine and she has blood thinners, right?
Yeah, right. I just, the zip tie thing, I don't think, I mean, why would you zip tie an 84-year-old woman? She's not going anywhere. There's a walker in the house. There's a walker. I mean, it's pretty clear she's not very mobile. And I think, I just believe that something went wrong and caused that. I mean, that I believe it's a head wound, because that's the way, in my experience, I have seen, even a minor, let's just assume for the sake of our discussion that let's say he gave her a stroke with a pistol and opened her head up. The head bleeds like nobody's business. And so, again, I'm trying to go on evidence here of what we know for certain. And those blood drops tell me that most probably a head wound, and they're moving her out the door. Now, whether she's conscious or not, that's the whole question here. Again, this is just my speculation, but I don't think she was conscious when they moved her through, when she was moved through the door.
I mean, hey, that's possible. They might have knocked her out via a drug or something too, just to make it easier to not create noise or something. But neither one would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if she was unconscious going out the door, or barely after like being hit or something like that, right? Neither one would surprise me. But what do you think, chat? Do you think she was conscious coming out the door, or no? Press 1 if you think she was conscious, 2 if you think she was not. So again, do you think Nancy was conscious coming out the door? Press 1 if yes, and 2 if no.
So that's why we find that blood. Something went wrong inside that house. And of course, we don't know for certain what other evidence may be there that we just don't know about, that sources don't know about, and so forth and so on.
Well, this is why I called you, because honestly, Phil, this is the mystery. I mean, mystery upon mystery. I assume there must be lots of other evidence inside that home that we don't know about. But my source says, honestly, but for the blood and the image of that man on the camera, it appears that Mrs. Guthrie got up and walked out on her own and disappeared. And that to me was shocking. That really shocked me.
Well,
What did she just say?
know about, that sources don't know about, and so forth and so on.
Well, this is why I called you, because honestly, Phil, this is the mystery. I mean, mystery upon mystery. I assume there must be lots of other evidence inside that home that we don't know about. But my source says, honestly, but for the blood and the image of that man on the camera, it appears that Mrs. Guthrie got up and walked out on her own and disappeared.
Okay, she phrased it weird. So she said, if it wasn't for the blood and the person on the Nest Cam, otherwise it would look like Nancy just outright walked out herself, which is crazy. But of course, that's not what happened. So again, I don't know why she phrased it that way. I guess to emphasize there's so little evidence, I guess.
And that to me was shocking. That really shocked me.
Well, just based on what Savannah said and based on what we know about Ms. Guthrie's health, I don't think she got up and walked anywhere. Because even Savannah said that, if she was able to walk to the mailbox, that was a success. She felt, her mom thought, well, great, I got to the mailbox. So I don't think we're giving Ms. Guthrie a whole lot of mobility here that I don't believe she had.
No,
And
I think
so,
my point is that that's the appearance.
No.
Yeah, so the way she phrased it confused him too. And she's going to clarify that now.
No, they know that didn't happen. They said
the description of it, yeah.
Right. As far as evidence inside the house, because I think we're all wondering, what else do they have, right? What else have they got? What else are they processing? And the word came back to me is that, but for the blood and the image of the guy on the camera, it just appears that she got up, walked out, and vanished. There's nothing else. There's no sign of a struggle. There's nothing in the bedroom to suggest that there was a fight or even anything towards,
But we got to remember, this is coming from a source, and we don't know what the detectives know. We don't know when they processed the scene what they collected. So everything we're doing now is pure speculation, of course, based on what your sources are telling you. And again, I'm a guy that I don't give a lot of credence to sources until I see something that is evidentiary, that's probative, that says, you know what, they were right. So I've got to be one of those guys that, you know, I got to see it to believe it, and or at least be told by someone who's in the inside, that involved in the investigation, who comes out and says, this is what we found, or this is what we did not find. Now, in regards to Nanos,
And again, this source of Ashleigh Banfield's, it's a mystery source. She's not going to disclose it. The person's not going to reveal themselves, more than likely. But let's speculate on who it could even be. I'd imagine it's some sort of detective in the department. Or, I mean, let's put it like this too. I mean, would you put it past Ashleigh Banfield to say former Undersheriff Rick Castiger is a source? Or Sergeant Cross is a source? I mean, would that count? And maybe there's just things that Sergeant Cross, who is currently working there, right? So that's not beyond the realm of possibility. Former Undersheriff Rick Castiger no longer is. But maybe Sergeant Cross would say to her, hey, keep this off the, don't say I said it, say your source, but I'll say what I want to say when I'm on your show, but this is really what it is, and you can just say this is your source. But that's all me speculating. I don't know. I don't know who her source is.
his communication skills have screwed this thing up from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
He admitted in the first press conference that he's not good at this. He's not used to communicating this. And now you've got this high profile investigation that is a nationwide, worldwide event. And he does not know how to handle that kind of a spotlight. And he's only made it worse. Now, all the stuff about his past and all this other stuff, to me, again, people have said, you know, you're defending. I'm not defending him. Look, we all have a past. We all got a story. We all got a backstory. He's been in law enforcement for 40-something years, and he's become the sheriff in Pima County. Now, whatever mistakes he's made in the past and so forth and so on, that's nice to talk about. But in talking about the investigation, where I see his problem has been communicating the part of the investigation as it's going along. When he got up there and did the timeline was provided to him. He didn't formulate the timeline. The detectives and the agents put together that timeline. So the best decision he made was, after the second press conference, I'm not going to do another one until we've got something. And then they haven't been one. But then he goes and makes the mistake. And you know, you've been in media, you know, and you know this is, he starts doing these individual interviews where he starts saying stuff, and then he starts saying other stuff that countermands the other stuff. So that was bad. He should have just given it to your PIO people. They get paid to do this. Give it to the FBI's PIO people. They get paid to do that, and let those people do the media stuff. I think he's made a tremendous mistake in going out there and he's way out of his wheelhouse when it comes to communicating about the progress or lack thereof of this investigation.
He's a bad communicator. Sheriff Nanos contradicts himself, contradicts Brian, contradicts Ashleigh, contradicts himself. That's not good communicating. And how can you be a good leader if you're not a good communicator? Well, and the no confidence votes proves no one there thinks he's a good leader either.
And it has not helped. It has not helped the investigation at all, because all the distraction is with him. And that just, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Let me ask you, and you're very right. Like, there were a number of investigators who have been in and out of that home, right? There are the early people who arrived when they got a 911 call, the patrolman. And then there were the other investigators who arrived and, you know, said to the patrolman, out, like, this is way beyond what you think. It's not a woman who's wandered off. There's blood,
Right.
There's a door open, there's a wrecked camera out front. And then there's what I believe is the FBI who arrived and then have been back and forth and in and out of that house doing various iterations of processing. And
Right.
perhaps to the naked eye, which is what my sources are saying, it just doesn't look like a crime happened in here other than the blood in the front entrance, right?
Mhm,
And the front foyer inside. And the man on the camera, obviously, in the smashed camera. But
Right,
inside, nothing is out of place. Nothing looks unusual. The bedroom is not awry. There's no struggle anywhere. That may be to the naked eye, but the CSI may show something different.
Well, you're right. That's again, we're going back to what we don't know, and the detectives and the agents know. Now, I will tell you that agents going back, deputies going back, that's because they got a clue that sent them back. So none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. I know there's been a lot of talk about we released the scene too soon. Look, they processed the scene. They processed
So he's saying, I'll let him finish first.
what they had. And I don't know. I mean, that's kind of
about 30 hours. I mean,
subjective.
it was, no, I think
You
it's
know,
about, you tell me if it's subjective at around 30 hours or so before that scene was released.
Okay, well, that's a tremendous amount of time. I'm just telling you that there have been a couple of scenes that I've had where it took us all day and into the night to process them. And once we clear the scene, we're done. And that is when, at least in Houston, we have a detective that works the scene side and works the witness side. When I'm working the scene side, I get with the crime scene unit and I'm directing them on what I see as probative evidence that we need to collect. And they are doing the same thing. So we're working as a team to make sure that we get this thing processed properly. They're doing the pictures, they're doing the collection, they're doing the videos, they're doing all the recovery stuff. I'm in there with them saying, take that. And we're taking things that we may not need, but you'd rather take them and not need them than need them and not take them, right?
Sure.
So that processing of that scene, they processed it. And they did.
So he's saying they processed the scene, and he's kind of making it sound like, well, I don't think they missed anything. I think they got everything they needed. 30 hours is plenty of time. But you see, what makes you not think that is the fact that they closed it again. So and when you close it again, it looks like you're second guessing yourself, doesn't it? Or what could it have possibly been? Maybe the FBI wanted to go in there and relook at something. I don't know what it was, but when you reopen it, it makes you seem like you're second guessing yourself or you're being indecisive, right? But anyway, chat, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Leave your DNA on that like button. Likes help me to buy Hootie snacks for Shadow the Night Owl here. And subscribe to the channel if not already. Super Chat's a great way to support the channel and get questions answered. Super Stickers are a great way to support the channel. And channel memberships are a great way to support the channel. And they give you access to the members-only live streams. And maybe that could be partially what I do as well, creating a private group, maybe. We'll see. I have like a Reddit group for everyone and then a Telegram group that's more private. We'll see.
Did what they needed to do, and they released it. Now, and I don't find that to be anything weird, strange, or anything based on what they had. And now you got FBI agents that come into it because now they're looking at it as a kidnapping, and the FBI always comes into a kidnapping case. I work kidnapping cases in Houston. The FBI is always there with us to partner with us and give us support because they have resources we don't have. And they were wonderful. They're great. So this thing, as it starts to pick up steam, now you have all the noise and everybody's telling everybody else what they should be doing, and they're doing it. You know, the guys that are in the belly of the beast, they're doing it. And when these FBI agents go back to the scene, they're either getting a phone call clue or they're getting some other piece of evidence that's been processed that's giving them a clue and saying, we need to go back and check this. You saw the one thing where they came back, I think, days later, and they brought a dog. Well, the first minute I saw the dog, I'm going, that's got to be a cadaver dog. What other reason would you have a dog there? Then when you saw him come back again, and they started probing what looked like a septic system in the back. So as they're getting information and as pieces of evidence are being processed, they're going back to the scene. I've had scenes like that where we didn't know what we didn't know at the time, but then we saw something on a video, and we went, wow, we need to go back. And I had one guy that we had a video of a triple homicide, and he touched a chair as he was walking across shooting these people, but he touches a chair, and I go, oh crap, we didn't know that. So we went back to the scene, having already released it, and did the DNA swabbing on that particular chair. So what we're seeing here, and I hate to keep going on, but what we're seeing here is an investigation taking place. The public is seeing an investigation taking place in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all got these critics out there. So I use the example of, we all like sausage, but we don't want to see it being made. So here we go. We're seeing the sausage being made.
That's what Bismarck in the late 1800s said. He was a politician in Germany. He said, making policy is like making sausages. You don't want to see how it's made.
And here come the critics. So my statement has been all along, let the detectives do their job. Let the FBI agents do their jobs. They're working together with all this other conflict. And I really get ticked off when I hear sources inside the investigation are saying this. If that's true, those people need to be run out of that investigation.
This is interesting here. Mike, thank you very much for the super chat, Mike. How are you this evening? Thank you for that. So he's basically saying, this guy's saying he hates it when sources leak things to people like Ashleigh Banfield and Brian Entin, is basically what he's saying. And he says, and Maureen kind of agreed with him, honestly. Remember that? She was saying anyone who's kind of leaking stuff, and maybe Jen Koffendorfer even said it too, but they were like, anyone who's leaking, that's a problem. But you know why they're probably leaking? Because they don't like Sheriff Nanos. They're not a unified front. But let's let him continue.
Because that does nothing to assist in the investigation or enhance it in any way. It's detrimental, in my view.
Part of me thinks, and the wording is always different when people refer to their sources. They sometimes say law enforcement sources, sources connected to the investigation, sources with knowledge of the investigation, sources adjacent to the investigation, federal sources, local sources. I mean, there's all sorts of verbiage that try to cover. And I tend to think, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, there are some crimes that the public never knows about, and there are other crimes that are the Gabby Petitos and the Idaho 4 and now the Nancy Guthries of the world. And the public is transfixed by them, as are people in the department. And so there's a lot of talking within the department. Sometimes there's a conversation in the men's room, whatever it is. That information gets out more in a high profile case, even within the department itself.
No, I agree. I agree. And what's bad about that is because they use that nuance, a law enforcement closely, that could be somebody in the detective bureau who is not involved directly in the investigation, but they're in the detective bureau, so they would be considered a legitimate source, and they may be revealing some information that they heard somebody talking about around the coffee pot that is involved in the investigation and thinking, okay, hey.
And you know what? That's probably very likely, right? Because, I mean, that's what Brian or Ashleigh would probably do. Like, hey, what have you heard about the case? Have you heard about this? Oh, well, I heard this at the coffee table. I heard this at the water cooler. And then boom, right? Now, depending on the reporter, though, some people are going to be a little more cautious than others. I like Brian Entin how he does it because he seems to be pretty cautious. He does not want to be the person that is fast to speak up and then say something wrong or say something that could hurt the case. That's not his way.
Here's the little tip, and they don't even understand the context of the conversation. So no, that happens all the time, and that's unfortunate. And for people that are doing that, I'm just saying that if I ever knew in one of my investigations that there was a officer or a detective inside the division who was releasing information about my investigation, I'd have a serious chat with them. I mean, that's just.
I do want to say, because I've talked to a lot of sources, and I want to protect them because I don't believe that many of them are nefariously releasing information. I think it's there is a lot of sharing among the agency itself, and that tends to get out. It's at a point where this is not a person who's actually assigned to it. And I will also say that the information that I got on day 3 has borne out all the way along. I mean, each time I hear something more where Savannah says herself, back door propped open, it's like, well, there I was on day 3, back door wide open, blood droplets. Well, there we have it, and so, a car towed, Annie's car was towed. I learned that on day 3, it was. So I tend to think my sources are very good. But you're right. You operate differently. You operate with evidence that you know about from the official, when you get it officially. And I'm curious about the difference between a scene when you first arrive and you see it with your naked eyes.
So the one thing she didn't mention, of course, though, right, is the Tommaso maybe being a prime suspect part. So that source told her that, and let's face it, that was probably the biggest news she ever reported about this case, right? Can you name me something that was a bigger story than that Ashleigh Banfield reported? I mean, was she first to do the Nest Cam footage? I kind of think that was Brian Entin. But I think that was the most popular thing she did, no? The saying Tommaso is maybe a prime suspect?
And it appears the way I am being told it appeared. And what that scene looks like under a microscope. How different can it be?
Well, that's a great question. I can tell you that in my experience, when you walk into something like that, and look, and I've walked into scenes where there's a body, and just that first look around the scene, because you walk in, you want the scene to talk to you, and you walk in there and you're just going, wow, there's not a lot being said here. We've got a body sitting here and no other explanation of why they're here. And the one I recall is a guy that was shot he was in an apartment. There was a disturbance in the apartment below, and somebody down here went boom and hit him. And he's on the deck and died there. Well, his apartment, there's nothing except him laying on the floor with a bullet in it. And so I've been in those where there's not a lot initially, and then that's where you go to work. You hit the bricks and you start checking that scene, processing the scene. Let's see what we do have, and it's always a journey for the truth. So you got to let the evidence lead us where we need to be. We can't take it someplace we want it to go. And there's always, you're talking about, people telling you things and they turn out to be true. So there's a contextual problem with some of these things, right? So just take the Annie's vehicle being towed. That's a fact, but we don't know the truth about why it was towed.
Just that it was towed under a warrant,
Right. So we don't know other than that, we don't know the truth about why it was towed. So, and everybody speculates, of course, she's involved and blah, 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 blah. But I can tell you, as a matter of drill, as a matter of an investigation, again, we're seeing this in real time. That to me did not strike me as being particularly strange. A case like this, you work from the inside out. So the first people you're going to talk to, you're going to investigate, are going to be the family. And look,
So this guy's basically saying to Ashleigh, without saying it, sometimes you got to slow your roll. Now, granted, he's from a different angle, like Ashleigh said, right? Ashleigh's angle is news and reporting. And some of that means getting eyeballs on you. With him, it is not about that at all. It's more about, okay, what's good with the case? And if anything, they want less reported probably because they don't want the case interfered with. The only time that wouldn't be the case is if they think the public could help them find someone, right? That's how this guy sees it. So it's just different schools and different motivations. And this is something we talked about before, right? Months ago now, we talked about this.
Been over at the house that night having dinner. She'd been brought back to her place by, I think, the son-in-law or Annie's husband or whoever he is, whatever he is. And so they're processing the car for what? They got blood on the front porch, and if your source is correct, they got blood on the inside. Well, they're going to process Annie's car because that's the last vehicle that she's known to be in. Do we have Ms. Guthrie's blood inside that car? And if we do, we got some questions.
Right. And that makes sense. I'm curious about the day that I saw the white tent go up out front of Mrs. Guthrie's home. And I think it was about 2 weeks or so after her disappearance. And the white tent was only up for a matter of an hour or two. And then it came down and the front doorbell cam bracket was now gone. And I thought, wow, did it ever take a long time to take that bracket in for testing? Because once the video came out, we saw that he'd got a bite light in and presumably he'd had to put it in his mouth and take it out of his mouth. And then he's manhandling that light. So I assumed there had to be some DNA of his on that front bracket. Who knows if the mixed DNA that they're talking about at the Florida lab came from that bracket or came from a door handle. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by the microscope, right? You can't see that at first blush. You arrive and you think this scene doesn't look like anything happened. But then you come in with the FBI microscopes and black lights and all the rest. And then you start to see more, perhaps forensics. Is there a huge difference once you start applying that kind of CSI technology to seeing more evidence of things that maybe weren't evident to the naked eye?
Well, I think the short answer is yes. Again, I've used the FBI evidence recovery teams on several of my homicides. They're great. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about them is I had a vehicle that was in Louisiana, and I called my Houston guys. They called the Louisiana guys and sent the ERT team to that place in Louisiana and processed that car for me. And I've had around the state where we've had to send. They've always been on ready to go, and they're very good at what they do. And so those kinds of things that come in there, and that's there's a discussion with the local crime scene units to process that scene. They're not doing this in a vacuum. Nothing. I think people may have a hard time understanding is it's a team concept, and they're discussing with those local crime scene units. Okay, this is what you did. Did you think about this? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you take any pictures? And they obviously did not take the torn away Nest camera that had the bracket up there. And so a decision was made. Well, let's go back and let's reprocess that part of it and see what kind of probative evidence we can get out of the way we're going to recover it. And we don't know, right? So all these pieces of evidence take time to process, and we don't know the amount of evidence that they have that have gone to the lab for particular different types of processing. So, I mean, look, I know when I processed the scene, when our crime scene units processed the scene, we did DNA, fingerprints, and trace evidence. So if they're collecting trace evidence, which is a whole different piece of evidence, which goes to a different lab to be examined and processed. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is the volume of evidence, regardless of what a scene may look like to the naked eye, has to get processed, and it takes time to do it. So again, we don't know what they know, and we don't know what evidence that they were able to recover.
So because you have, roughly 400 cases under your belt, you're the right guy to ask about the other pieces that I've learned about. And we've talked about a little bit about them. The blood pattern is the same from the outside over the threshold of the door into the inside foyer. The pattern is the same, and there's no sign of struggle in it. It doesn't appear there's a bunch of footprints or anything like that. So that's
Right.
the first thing. Second thing is, again, these the doors in the back of the house. The family told the police that they were often left unlocked, that Mrs. Guthrie would often leave those doors unlocked.
Right.
That's another piece. And then the third piece, and again, these are the things that I've learned this week from my sources. The third piece was that one of the investigators said the following quote, "We ain't got shit." When it came to where were they in the investigation, how are they doing, how much progress, the answer was, we ain't got shit.
So do you think that's true? Do you think they ain't got shit? Or do you think they're playing possum? Or do you think they're just saying something and then they still got things behind the scenes? So what do you think? Press 1 if you think that they ain't got shit. Or press 2 if you think they got a lot more than they're leading on. So again, 1, you think they don't got shit. 2, they got more than they're leading on. And that's law enforcement. Also, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Spank that like button if you're feeling a little bit frisky. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Again, super chats are a great way to support the channel and get questions answered. Super stickers, great way to support the channel. And becoming a channel member gives you access to the members only live streams. And all of that helps me to pay for Hootie Snacks for Shadow the Night Owl here. He's my spirit animal for the show.
And I was struck by that only because I thought that there was stuff happening behind the scenes and that they were on to leads. But hearing that makes me it sort of dashes my optimism.
Well, I can only tell you that I've made that kind of comment when we, in a detective's mind, in a homicide cop's mind, if they don't have, I'll speak for myself. If I didn't have what I wanted, then my attitude is going to be, we ain't got, so.
And that's true, right? He's talking about a different context of saying we ain't got shit. So like maybe they're looking for the next piece and they don't have it. But if you've watched police shows, right, they can have a lot, but if they don't have the next thing they really want, they still might call it they don't have shit. But to us, would we think they didn't have shit? We might have a different definition of that than what they're using as that definition. Does it make sense?
We've got a whole lot of stuff, but it's not the stuff that I need. And so that may be that frustrated comment that comes out. That would be the context in which I'm hearing you say that the way that was communicated. That's a homicide cop that's frustrated because they got a whole bunch of stuff. And because to say that we ain't got anything, look, they've got the video, they've got a lot of stuff, but we don't have the stuff. We don't have the one thing that would turn this thing in the direction that we need to go. So I understand the comment out of frustration, but I don't think it's an overreaching. Yeah, we don't have a thing. I don't think that's the way that doesn't come across that way to me.
Well, it's so funny. I'm glad you said that because all the way along, leading up to day 47, which was the day that they arrested Brian Kohberger, right? They were working feverishly on a lead that was good. They had him. They had him in their sights. They followed him across the country. They pulled his father's trash. They surrounded and surveilled. And all that was happening with the rest of us completely unaware. And to us on the outside, it seemed like they didn't have shit. And the truth was,
and that was a good thing. That was a good thing. Right. I remember that was wonderful. Yeah.
But they did have something. And so I've got to be honest. This is my optimism about the Nancy Guthrie case. I assumed the same kind of thing might be happening. Now, surpassed day 47. We're recording this on the 28th of March, which means it's day 56. And I had assumed before I heard that comment that they probably were working feverishly on some really good stuff. And I don't think someone would say that if they weren't.
Well, again, I'm just telling the context in which I'm taking that statement. I don't. Now, look, here's the other possibility, and it's happened to me, that I think they're still in the mode of waiting for evidence to be processed. I think we're still in that mode. But look, sometimes there does come a time where you hit the wall, and all you've got left at that point is to wait for that phone call, wait for that scorned woman that makes that. I'll take a scorned woman every time. And so that may be what's happening here. I'm not ready to.
Super chat from Mike. Thank you very much. I love the white owl. I'm a bird person. Can I send you a picture of my blue heron? You can send it to an email or my Instagram. Email I will leave in the chat here. I do like nature and dinosaurs. Used to be a big Discovery Channel kind of guy or Animal Planet kind of guy. I appreciate the super chat, Mike.
Say that they've hit the wall, but that possibility may exist. I get a little peeved when I hear people, oh, it's gone cold. No. They don't even understand what it takes, what the parameters are for a case to be classified as a cold case, and we're not even close to that.
But how did they figure it out, Deb? Where is it? Where is this information? Is there a Wiccans register? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So
not with 40,000 tips that came in. Cold case, you got to get rid of all those tips.
No.
Nothing, you know?
Yeah, it's usually, I mean, I know the standard at HPD, and I think that's pretty much the general standard. 3 years, no leads, no witnesses to talk to, nothing, all the evidence has been processed. There is nothing else there. And so it goes, at least at Houston PD, it went to the cold case. It was assigned to the cold case squad once it met the parameters of being a cold case. So this one has still got life to it. And I just, people, I said it during the Kohlberger thing. I don't like to say his name, the evildoer thing. Be patient. And things are going to happen now. Going back to Nanos and that chief in Moscow, what a contrast. So I kind of look at those two guys in the way they communicated, the way that investigation was going. The chief was very composed. The chief got up and said what the chief needed to say, and he had the same criticisms that Nanos has. Same stuff. You don't know.
Thank you very much for the super chat. Some days you got to dance. Crime happens fast. Becoming a victim is something that is instant. Law enforcement and eventual court moves at a snail's pace. Yes, this is very true. And it doesn't happen. These things don't get solved at the pace we would like, right? But all we can do is hope they're working on it the best they can. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I do have one thing to say here. So according to X, this person at Chilium said, I don't know if this is a legitimate source. They said this on February 4th, 2026. Annie Guthrie says she is an oracular writer. In modern pagan, Wiccan, or occult communities, some practitioners use oracles as part of their practice and may self-identify as witches. When a self-proclaimed oracular calls someone a great manifester, They believe the person consistently gets what they intend, goals, outcomes, relationships, by bending the circumstances to be in their favor, so to speak. In Oracle, great manifester means the person's thoughts, beliefs, or energy are unusually effective at shaping reality. I feel like I might be a great manifester. They're aligned with fate, the universe, and a higher intelligence. So that's what this person says that Annie said. And in the case, January 11th and January 31st are apparently holidays in the pagan religion. So wouldn't that be interesting, right? January 11th, January 31st being dates of interest that law enforcement was looking at. Let me look up what those dates are.
What you're doing, your detective's, been a detective for 2 days. I mean, blah, 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 blah. All that noise directed at the chief and saying horrible things about him, about the Moscow Police Department, so forth and so on. And what did the chief do? He maintained his composure. He maintained his grasp and control of the investigation. He communicated it in the way that he needed to. Doesn't mean the media got the answers they wanted, but it meant that he gave them the answers that he needed to give them, that he needed to give them. And then when it was all over, and they
Lori, I will look some up now. It's a good idea to read some of Annie's poems.
Had the evildoer in custody, and that case was, which was amazing, incredible event. What did that chief do? He stood up there and he showed an incredible amount of grace to all of those people that had been criticizing him in every way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Nanos does not have that type of composure. He doesn't have that type of communication skills. And he has, in terms of communicating with the public and with the media, he has now turned everything on him, and it's all negative.
And that's true. So this is January 11th. January 11th is not a major Wiccan holiday or Sabbat. However, in some extended pagan and Roman traditions, it is observed as Carmentelia, a festival honoring Carmenta, the goddess of childbirth and prophecy, as well as Julturna's Day, which honors the goddess of water. Interesting, all of those, what would you call them? Fortune tellers and whatever were saying Nancy was by water. Wheel of the Year, the major Wiccan winter festival, is Yule, winter solstice, December, followed by Imbolc, early February. Minor observances. Some specialized calendars note early January for minor observances, but January 11th does not feature in the standard Wheel of the Year. Let me look up January 31st.
And it's all self-inflicted, and he's brought it on himself. So, again, I always say it all the time. I said it during the Idaho investigation. You people have got to be patient, and getting out here with conspiracy theories and all this other stuff doesn't enhance the investigation. I think it's
all right. So this is January 31st. January 31st, the night of the disappearance, really, is recognized as Imbolc Eve, or Bride's Night, the beginning of the Wiccan holiday Imbolc, Imbolc, which officially falls on February 1st to 2nd. It's a Gaelic festival marking the first stirrings of spring, the return of light, and the purification of the home, often celebrated with candle lightning, and honoring the goddess Brigid. Key aspects of Imbolc, January 31st, February 1st. Let's see. Significance. It is the midpoint between the winter solstice, Yule, and the spring equinox, Astara, focusing on new life, hope, and the awakening of the earth. Honoring Brigid. Many honor the Celtic goddess Brigid, associated with fire, poetry, healing, and creativity. Common traditions: lighting candles, representing the return of the sun's warmth; house cleaning, a spring cleaning to clear out the stagnant energy of winter; Brigid's crosses, crafting crosses from rushes or straw for protection; bride, Brigid's veil, placing a cloth outside on the night of January 31st to receive healing blessings; setting intentions, making goals for the coming spring. Imbolc is a time of quiet magic, focusing on nurturing your inner fire and preparing for the coming growth of the new season. What do you think about that, folks?
Disrespectful to family when that kind of stuff goes around. And I can only tell you, Ashleigh, that I've done a lot of things in my life. I scooped ice cream at the age of 14 at Baskin Robbins. I've gone all the way through construction, sacking groceries, an officer, platoon commander, company commander in the Marine Corps. And I was a cop for 33 years and a homicide detective for 23. It's the only job, being a homicide cop, being a police officer, it's the only.
Snow Baby, I'm reading what other channels are saying about it, which, again, I'm not going to mention that other channel because I'm not a fan of them. But that's what they said. So I'm reporting on what other people are reporting on.
Job that I ever had where there were more people that knew how to do my job better than me, having never done it.
It's a really good point. It's like parenting, those who aren't parents are always the best parents, right?
Oh, of course they are. Of course,
parents.
Of course they are. Exactly right. Exactly
Phil,
right.
I always love our conversations. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you asking me, Ashley. It's good to be back with you.
It's just always good to have, a real gumshoe kind of detective to sort of pull me back from where my head goes, and say what he really, thinks, and based on the work that he's done, in his past. But I think there's just so many questions about this investigation that still are yet to be answered and leave us wondering what in the actual hell could have happened. But I got a couple more conversations that I'm having with my sources, and I will bring you up to speed just as soon as I get that information down pat. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for Zenyatta. She's having.
All right. So here's a poem from Annie Guthrie. Let's see if I can find some more of them too. Women's Voices Against War by Annie Guthrie. What is a guest? A wish makes, what the stupid format? What is a guest? A wish. I don't like this format. It's hard to read. Annie Guthrie poems. From the Good Dark. Noise, even every leaf cloud passing, reaching, even under darkness, silence can't be demonstrated, it has no edge. Breaking what it needs, digestion, the nourishment process could be a good model. So on doors I pluck for sound, and out of varying instruments. Blender, mouth of bronze idol, on mantle, mouth, color, interpret, vandalize. Vandal to rue, rue's the day, ruler's the dawn, maw's dark tresses, the claw's dark ledges. Interesting. Interesting indeed.
This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast.
By the way, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for Shadow the Night Owl's Hootie Snacks, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already.
And True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
241 to 0. How'd you like to play that game? How'd you like to be the one sitting at 0 when 241 votes have been cast against you? It's not a close vote. It's not a divided department. When the Pima County Deputies Organization put the question to its membership, confidence or no confidence in Sheriff Chris Nanos, every member who cast a ballot voted no confidence and resign. And resign. Not just, we don't like you, go do what you will with this information, because clearly you haven't the last time we voted. Now we're going to put it out there, no confidence, and resign. We're telling you with our vote what we'd like you to do. 241 deputies, 65 abstained, not one person voted to keep him and continue. 0. These are the investigators, the detectives, the people inside that building every single day running the most high-profile missing persons case in this country, and they have unanimously told you they don't trust the man in charge. That alone should be the story. But the deputy's vote isn't actually the thing that moved the needle. What moved the...
Jamie says tomatoes poems.
needle happens next. The Pima County Board of Supervisors went into closed session for nearly 3 hours. When they came back out, they voted unanimously to invoke a state statute, an old territorial era law, rarely used, occasionally dusted off for when a county government decides it's had enough, requiring Sheriff Nanos to submit sworn statements about his conduct and his department. Then Supervisor Matt Hines, the Democrat, who put the item on the agenda, said out loud what a lot of people have been circling around. Nanos' 42-year career in Pima County, quote, seems to be based on fraud. And then he added the line that gave this some real teeth. If Nanos refuses to comply with the board's order, the board can move to remove him from office. Not censure, not a strongly worded letter, remove him. That's the mechanism. That's live right now. And Nanos' own lawyers know exactly what it means, because within hours of that vote, his office released a statement. The sheriff will comply with the statute. He will provide the report. So how did we get here? How does the sheriff of one of the largest counties in Arizona, a man who just won re-election 16 months ago, end up with his own department voting 241 to nothing against him, and his supervisors invoking a law from the territorial area to put him under oath? Well, the short answer involves a filing cabinet in El Paso, Texas, that said untouched for over 4 decades. And if you followed our earlier reporting on Nanos' El Paso record, you know the broad outlines. 8 suspensions, 37 days without pay, 26 allegations over 6 years, a robbery suspect who ended up in the intensive care unit, a grand jury, and a forced choice in August of 1982, resign or be fired. He resigned. He was 26 years old. He came to Tucson 2 years ago, or 2 years later, listed El Paso on his resume with a departure date 2 years later than the records show. So he lied on his resume and built a career inside a department that had no idea what was sitting in a filing cabinet back in Texas. Again, it's the 80s. There's no computers looking these things up. There's no cross-referencing. There still isn't today in most cases. People relied on each other's words and apparently didn't do a whole lot of cross-referencing either. Supervisor Hines' framing is blunt. If the foundation was fraudulent, the 42 years built on top of it are, in his words, fruit of a poison tree. Now, look, the implications of this are rather large. 42 years as a sheriff. There's a lot of cases that have come and gone through that department in 42 years that he was involved in. That's a lot of cases that are going to have a second, much closer look done at them. And they're going to try and argue, well, if he shouldn't have been there in the first place, how can my client be guilty, Your Honor? Now, that ain't going to go very far in most cases, but I can guarantee there's going to be a handful that are going to get a good second look that maybe otherwise wouldn't. And that's probably a good thing. What's new and what changes the stakes considerably is the deposition. In December of last year, Nanos sat down for a sworn deposition in a federal lawsuit filed by his own union president. At some point during that 6-hour session, an attorney asked him a direct question he had not been asked before in this sort of a setting. Had he ever been suspended during his law enforcement career? His answer, no. He later said, after the Arizona Republic published the El Paso records, that he interpreted the question as referring only to his time in Pima County. Even though the question clearly stated, in your law enforcement career. Remember, we had this problem a couple weeks ago.
And to reiterate, because I've seen some people getting upset that Tommaso and Annie were even being mentioned, I'm looking up because it's interesting if those were holidays, January 11th and January 31st, but I'm not implying anything with any of that. Like, I don't know. I don't know what happened, so it's just something like when you have no leads, right? People are going to look into things. They just are.
Nanos, where you weren't really used to people questioning you or having to be accurate with the words that came out of your mouth that seemed like a really, elusive thing to you. Well, we've already gone down that road, so you already know people are holding you accountable. You're doing a deposition in your law enforcement career. There really isn't a lot of room for misunderstanding or misinterpreting unless you're just a fucking idiot, which you kind of are, it seems. When they asked me the question, he told the Tucson columnist, I'm thinking of right here in Pima County, 42 years back. He added that he told the attorneys throughout the deposition to rely on documentation rather than his memory because the records would be more accurate than his recollection. So you forgot all about all those reasons 42 years ago why you were not fired, but you quit on your own accord in lieu of firing. You tend to remember those sort of things. I mean, if you don't, let me go back to what I just said earlier, the effing idiot thing. I guess both can be true. You can decide what you think about that explanation. Rely on the record. Okay. How about don't blatantly lie? Or if you don't know, say you don't know. You don't give absolutes when you don't know. This is how people like this try to get away with shit. They try to confuse you, try to confuse the process, try to make you second guess. Well, maybe I'm wrong for asking the question that way. If I did it this way, maybe I would have gotten a different. It's my fault for you lying in a deposition. No, it's not. It's yours, Chris Nanos, and you failed and you were caught, and now you need to face the consequences. What Supervisor Hines thinks of it is not ambiguous.
So what they're talking about here, Tony Bruschi. By the way, support Tony Bruschi's channel. Support Ashleigh Banfield's channel too. Make sure you like this video while you're here. Likes are free. Spank that like button and subscribe to my channel. I go live almost every night to talk about true crime and current events at a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern. So Tony Bruschi here is talking about how, Sheriff Nanos was suspended 8 times and he was still able to win. That's pretty wild. He had assaulted someone with a flashlight that was handcuffed. Again, that could be considered felony assault. But when you're a law enforcement officer, they usually take it easy on you. But remember, if someone would have done that same thing to a law enforcement officer, they probably would have called it attempted murder. Keep that in mind too. And Sheriff Nanos lied about these things. So it seems to me that he shouldn't have been sheriff to begin with. If people knew the truth, he wouldn't have been sheriff. It reminds me of the Charles Schultz quote. You ever heard the Charles Schultz quote? It says, "If it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed." What do you think?
I was very surprised, Hines says, and I was even more surprised that the revelation wasn't followed by his immediate resignation. This is disqualifying for any county employee, but especially for one in law enforcement. We could be forced to reopen every case he's ever contributed to during his entire career at Pima County. This is what happens when you put egotistical, narcissistic maniacs in power. And go, he seems like a guy I'd like to have a beer with. Yeah. The Unabomber would also be an interesting guy to have a beer with. Would I do it? No.
Yeah.
He's also publicly raised questions as to whether Nanos misrepresented his history in sworn testimony, a question that the board's attorney are now specifically tasked with examining. Which brings us to the trap hidden inside all of this, and it cuts in a direction that most people haven't gotten to yet. The state statute the board invoked has a specific and narrow trigger. A county board can move to remove an officer who refuses to appear before them or refuses to submit the required sworn statement. That's the lever. That's where the removal power lives. And Nanos, or more precisely, whoever is advising Nanos, read that statute and gave the only answer that keeps him in his chair. I'll comply. I'm not refusing. I'll do it. If he shows up, submits a sworn report, and answers the board's question, even unconvincingly, even with explanation that supervisors don't buy for a second, the removal mechanism under the statute may not apply anymore. The county is already paying outside attorneys to figure out exactly what the board can do if he complies, but his answers don't hold up. There's a parallel court case working through a related question in Maricopa County right now involving County Recorder Justin Heap. Nobody has a clean answer yet. The board's outside counsel comes back on April 7th with the specific questions they intend to put to Nanos. That's when we find out whether this instrument is actually sharp or whether compliance alone is enough to diffuse it.
Off topic, that owl mascot is super duper adorable, Jared. Well, this is Shadow the Night Owl. He is my spirit animal, mascot of the channel here. Swift the Fox is the other mascot. +1 if you know what that's from. But the likes and comments and subscriptions, super chats, super stickers, memberships, they all help Shadow the Night Owl get his hootie snacks. So if you haven't liked, and you're in the 1,200-ish people that are here right now, 1,300, please make sure you like the video. So Shadow here doesn't go hungry. Last night, he fell off his boom pole. He was fainting with hunger. He also didn't like listening to the Duggar case. YouTube didn't like the Duggar case either, for that matter. So I might not be talking about that one specifically again for a while. So, but we did it. We got through it. We got through the information. And we'll see if there's anything else to talk about it. Yes. Shadow the Night Owl does not like in-depth details of that regard. Can you blame him?
The recall is a separate track, and it's a steep one. More than 122,000 valid signatures needed with a hard deadline. The effort is being led by a Republican congressional candidate, which means it's already carrying a partisan framing in a county that went Democrat in the last sheriff's race by 481 votes. And this week, the recall campaign didn't yet have a website. That's not the organizational infrastructure of a campaign that's about to collect six figures in a verified signature contest against a hard deadline. So here's the math as it actually stands. The deputies have abandoned him unanimously. The supervisors have called his career fraudulent and invoked a territorial era law to put him under oath. His defense of his deposition answer that he was thinking only of Pima County is now a matter of public record, and the question of whether that defense holds legally is now in the hands of outside counsel. The recall needs mass mobilization in a county of nearly 1 million people with limited organizational backing and a ticking clock. And the board's next move depends entirely on what its lawyers tell them they can actually do with a sheriff who says yes.
And by the way, it's very possible Nancy had a heart attack during this time as well. Considering all the stress of everything that was going on, that's certainly possible. I mean, and again, even if she was removed from her heart meds long enough, that could have done it as well. So it's hard. It's something that wouldn't be surprising to me.
Yes. April 7th, that's the next date. That's when the board hears what its attorneys have drafted. That's when we find out whether the language they invoke has real consequences or whether it's a mechanism with a compliance escape hatch built into it. And while all of that grinds forward, a family is still waiting. Nancy Guthrie has been missing since the 1st of February. No arrest, no publicly identified suspect. The sheriff running her case is preparing a sworn statement to preserve his own position. The machinery of accountability is moving slowly. And in the meantime, somebody out there knows what happened to an 84-year-old woman who didn't make it to church.
Thank you very much for the super chat, Lori. Oh, Shadow needs some food. Oh, and you do a great job too, Jared. You're very welcome, Lori. And Shadow does have a big appetite. So he's like me in that regard. But he has lots of wisdom to share. Sometimes he tells me what to talk about. He's like, Jared, you should talk about this tonight. Jared, you should talk about that tonight. Or Jared, you should invite this person on the show. And I say, yes, Shadow, you're right. I should. Thank you very much for the super chat, Lori. We both appreciate it. 46 likes to 500. A little birdie named Southern just told me, so we should be able to get there. Wendy, welcome.
And they haven't said a word. That's where things stand in Pima County. The pressure is real. The tools exist. Whether any of them land is a different question entirely. Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube. We'll continue it there. You know, those folks just don't know how to take a damn cue. He's clearly one of them. Can you imagine?
And yes, you are correct, Leah. Because Tony Bruschi misspoke because he said Nancy didn't show up to church. Well, she didn't go to in-person church. She went to her friend's house, and they would watch the church that Savannah went to in New York. They knew something was wrong when Nancy didn't call them and tell them that they weren't coming to the friend's house, right? And that's something we didn't realize. Remember for the first week, we were trying to figure that out? And that's what it was. She would go to a friend's house, watch church with them, and the church was in New York. So it was remote church. So good call there, Leah. Also, SZGP, SCG Production, 6233. Shadow needs snacks, Jared. Amen to that. Thank you very much for the super chat here. Shadow thanks you as well. He enjoys the Hootie snacks.
If you're the leader of an organization, any organization, whatever it may be, you're a boss. You have people under you in some way, shape, or form. And every single one of them, they think you're full of shit. They think there's no confidence in you whatsoever. They're voting against you. Not one person is standing up going, maybe he's misunderstood. Maybe he just, he does things a little different. Not one. Everybody wants you gone. Why would you even stay? What point are you going to make? You're not going to.
So I was trying to type this in the chat, but it's not letting me. But some days asked, how did she get to the friend's house if she can't even walk to the mailbox? Which is a good question. And I would say maybe an Uber. Maybe an Uber. Or maybe a friend would pick her up or something. But if it was a friend that was supposed to pick her up, you think they would have made a fuss before the service, right? Not after. After the service is when the fuss was made. 11:51 something or other, right? Or a little after 12. So it's a good question how she normally got there. Very good question some days.
Turn. You're not going to get them to come back around and go, oh, we were wrong. Call it a day. You're getting up there too. Dude, go enjoy your retirement. Consider yourself lucky that for 42 years you bamboozled Pima County on your previous record and got away with it. Go retire. And let the only people who have to deal with your bullshit be the ones that are at the drive-through coffee bar that you hit up in the morning. Made you your regular today, Chris. That's not what I want. I want, well, you've been getting the same one for the...
And Lori's absolutely correct that she drove during the day, just didn't drive at night. So that would negate what I just said. Because she did drive. I wasn't thinking about that, though. So good call, Lori.
Last 7 days. We just thought we'd be nice. I want, who the fuck knows? Go take your torment.
Oh, I got some super chat. Jolly. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jolly. More Hootie snacks for Shadow. You're great, Jared. Well, Jolly's an OG for those of you who don't know. Jolly's been here with me for a while. We are kindred spirits. So thank you very much, Jolly. You've always been appreciated here. Shadow, the Night Owl, appreciates it as well. Those Hootie snacks will go to good use. And Mike, thank you very much for this. I would like to hear directly from Nancy's friends. You know what? I would like to hear directly from them too. I'd be very curious what they say. Just to figure out, okay, when did you realize she wasn't there? Was it before the service? I mean, that's a fair question, right? Where, okay, the service, let's say it's at 10 o'clock. All right, she doesn't come to the service. You call them. They don't answer. When do you think there's a problem? And you're talking about someone who's 84, right? It's old enough to be concerned, especially if you can't even walk to the mailbox on some days, right? So you would think they would have called sooner, the friends. Or do you think they said, oh, maybe she's just tired? Or maybe she wasn't always a regular, and if she didn't feel like it, sometimes she didn't go? I don't know. We don't know, but it could be either. Thank you, Mike.
And control and chaos and lies and delusions and narcissism into retirement. Go be a Walmart greeter. Go do something you're more qualified for, because I'll tell you what, being sheriff ain't one of them. And 42 years have proven that. Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube. We'll continue it there. Be sure to press subscribe wherever you get podcasts so you don't miss any of our episodes, wherever you go. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we are there. Search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Right now, do it real quick so you don't miss it. And take us with you. We'll keep watching this.
Tony Bruschi's telling Sheriff Nanos to be a Walmart greeter.
Continue our conversation in the comments. Until then, I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and Robin Dream.
Here's what keeps showing up in a lot of your messages as we're going to be getting into the Nancy Guthrie case a little bit more today and the latest with the Nanos investigation. Forget the board meetings, forget the recall signatures, forget the politics. You want to know one thing. With all of this happening, is Nancy Guthrie still the priority? Is somebody still fighting for her? You got a lot of questions about that, and there's a lot of noise as you've been hearing us talking about with Sheriff Nanos. Robin Drake, retired FBI Special Agent, Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, is always my co-host with us as we're discussing this today. Let me ask you this, Robin. Even if Nanos has changed over at this point, let's say he steps down.
By the way, we're not seeing Jen Koffendorfer very much on Tony Bruschi's channel now, are we? And that's probably because she does her own show now. So Robin Drake here has probably taken over Jen Koffendorfer's role. We did see Jen Koffendorfer wear on that TMZ show with the younger guy interviewing her. So just something I just noticed now.
And you get somebody new in there. It's a new position. Somebody's going to, hit the ground running, but they're hitting the ground running when somebody else has been in that position for quite some time. So it's all going to be, a bit new territory. How does that affect this investigation?
So it's a great question. I don't think it would affect the investigation and the investigators and what they're doing in their day-to-day. I think they're locked in. I think they're working very, very.
Well, Jen Koffendorfer has her own show now, so I think that explains why she's not coming on. Mike, thank you for the super chat. SG said her mommy, Savannah Guthrie said her mommy had back pain, can't check mail. Yeah, she said that there's days where she can't make it to the mailbox. Only on a good day she would be able to. So she's not going too far, right? Maybe she can walk to the car in the garage, and that's about it. And she kept the car in the garage. So thank you very much for that, Mike. Jody, how are you? Oh, one more. I got a super sticker. Thank you very much for the super sticker. What should we call you, by the way? SCG? Production? Don't know your name. You can give your name if you want. You don't have to, though. But thank you very much for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Shadow the Night Owl appreciates it as well. He'll put those Hootie snacks to good use. Hey there, Tiger. Welcome.
Well with what they have. Now, what'll be really, really interesting if that does happen is a fresh set of eyes looking at what they do have and seeing what new decisions they'd make on what to share with the public. I think you need to, so here's what the public would love. The public would love some transparency about what transpired, what incongruencies meant what Nana was said. They'd look for explanations behind, he says this and he says this, he says this and he says this. And so someone with a new set of eyes looking at what they have right now would then be able to hopefully put out some corrected information, some more accurate information, consistent information, and hopefully a little more nuggets that would help generate leads, because that's what they still need more of. They still need more information coming in, because if we're not on someone, if we don't have an arrest, they obviously aren't zeroing in close enough to be able to do that. So maybe with a fresh set of eyes at the top, taking a little bit more of a concise angle on what to put out to the public would help that a lot. Like, so for example, I don't know the impact on this yet, but Savannah, she just did this interview as of the recording of this earlier today or yesterday, and she's talking about the back door being propped open. I'm like, that completely added some new data points to.
By the way, 30 likes from 500. We're coming down the home stretch here. We got this, folks. Likes help me get Hootie Snacks for Shadow the Night Owl. Leave your DNA in that like button, DNA of your choice, or you can spank and smash the like button as well. And subscribe too while you're here.
way I was thinking about this, because remember, I'm like 60 on the home invasion for attempted burglary gone sideways, but backdoor propped open. I got to do some more research now. I got to take a second look at this, because how does that affect just that one little nugget that she put out there? Kind of shifts this whole thing. Now, granted, is that going to help bring Nancy home, sooner or later? Don't know, but that kind of information might have helped early on.
And there's a psychology behind releasing some of that information or not, and it's very investigative, and it makes sense because you're going to get a lot of people that are going to claim they have knowledge of this or that, and there's certain details that need to be held close enough to the vest so you can determine whether that person actually knows what the hell they're talking about or not, or they're just making up a story. But sometimes revealing some of that information earlier on gives you a better idea of who to be looking out for, profile-wise,
right,
in the general public. Now it's one thing, the investigators to know who they should be looking out for, but there's only so many of them, and there's, it's a gazillion to one when it comes to the general population versus an investigator. There's a lot more eyeballs out there on the streets, and it felt like this case, with everything, and we've seen so many cases where things get held so close to the vest, a resource of the general public was not being used to help find an answer. And I get it can create a lot of noise, and there's different strategies depending on the investigator of how they're going to use it public, if they're going to use it public or not. But in so many cases, especially today, the information that is found that the public comes out with because they're given enough to work with ends up solving so many more cases than holding the information back, than just being like, we're going to solve it based on our handful of people who are investigating into the information only we know. This seemed like there was a very large missed opportunity, and there could have been a lot more information maybe thrown out to the public that maybe would have resulted in more valuable leads early on. I don't know. I mean, that seems to be true in a lot of cases. What's your thoughts on it on this one?
Yeah, and also the reverse of that, not just getting leads in for more information, because as most of us in law enforcement do, we don't really like second guessing what law enforcement is doing because we don't have the full picture in their decision process. And hell, I mean, granted, he's, as Nanos is as dumb as he's made some of these things, he's got a lot more experience than I do, about twice as much, really. I did 22 years with the FBI. But so I won't always discount everything they're doing, because there's some thought going behind it. Who knows what the impact of it is. But to that end, when it's not just about the impact that information has on the public for generating leads, but also we've talked about a lot, you and I, about the pressure that information then puts on the perpetrator or the people surrounding them. So imagine this. If Nanos had, again, just the thought experiment, who knows the difference would have made, but just a few more nuggets of details, like the door being propped open, or maybe one or two others, what kind of message that not just sends about who to look for the public for leads, but also the perpetrator and or their tight circle of people that might know about this? Oh my God, they actually saw that. They paid attention to that. I didn't realize I did that. Oh my God, they're on to me. Again, that pressure valve starts pushing on it because they think they're closing in, and pops, and someone leaks, and someone gives a tip. So by not, again, I don't know their decision process on what to do or not to do to kind of put that and apply that pressure publicly, but we've seen so little for such a long time that why not try it? Why not do something more? But that's how I think it'd make it, not just for the leads generated by the public, but also by putting pressure on the perpetrator themselves and their very tight circle that may or may not know this. Put that pressure on. They're on me. This is my only chance to save myself, is to turn him in and get the $1 million.
Where do you think that's at? Because that certainly has been an angle that we've talked about for quite a while in this case, is the how do you inspire someone to come forward with information? If no one's been inspired by now, is anyone ever going to be inspired?
I think it diminishes every day over time. But
I don't think the reward is going to do anything at this point. I think if it was going to, it already would have. But I also think people can be in danger. People might be in danger if they try to claim it. So there's that element to be concerned about too.
what'll happen so here's what does happen over time. As the perpetrator of this gets more comfortable with the fact they got away with it, their mouth starts running and they start leaking information, and so that could happen. He might get arrested for something else. And so he'll start doing the jailhouse kind of leaking, about, oh, I did this, and got away with it. So it could happen that way. And also, but if the people surrounding him don't feel the pressure that they're getting close to them, why would they turn him in? Because they have more to lose than they would to gain potentially. Because again, people fear jail more than they want money. What the study shows anyway.
Does someone like Nanos even care about credibility? I mean, or is he completely? Is he tone deaf to it? Because the way that he's been acting, the statements that he's made, he doesn't seem to be affected by the ridiculousness of some of his statements and the criticism that comes after it. It's just kind of like, and it just brushes off his shoulder. And I think we all know folks like that. It seems to be a lot more dangerous when you have someone who has this level of power that doesn't seem to care. But does credibility matter to someone like this? Especially, and I get like making forward-thinking statements about we're getting closer and bullshit like that. And they keep, he said that 1,000 times. We're getting closer. Are we? I mean, or are you just saying that aloud? I mean, and is it wrong to say that, I guess, aloud in something like this? I mean, there's people want to have hope, people want to have faith, but they also want facts and reality. Right. And when I go to police, I kind of want facts and reality. I don't necessarily want, hope and conjecture.
Yeah, I think he's more on the hope and conjecture. Credibility, it's, I can't think of how you would even think of that. I don't think he thinks in terms of credibility. I think his entire laurels, I imagine, are resting on the success of his department. So credibility doesn't really come into play of that. And because he's been in charge, I mean, also he's got 42 years of being inoculated against public opinion.
Yeah,
hasn't bothered him for that long, so it's not going to bother him now. I mean, this is just another day to him. That's why it's interesting, because people keep knocking him on going to the gym, going to basketball games, driving his sports car around. Because the image it's putting out there is not a good one, right?
Well,
he's inoculated against it because you know what? He does it every day. He don't care. It's just rolls
another
right
day. This is just another investigation for him, and it happens to be that there's far more eyes on him than there ever have been, but that doesn't appear to affect him in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't care.
Nope. You know why? Because he knows the odds of removing him from office.
Yeah, when you have that kind of, when you yield, I mean, is that something that really should be reviewed across departments, across municipalities across the country, of what levers do we have in place to remove someone should we get someone like this in power? And it is going to be interesting because, some places, there already is leadership in there that is running and existing because this kind of structure exists. So there's not going to be a whole lot of interest in changing that up, but there will certainly be municipalities and jurisdictions where they're open and they have the ability to make some change. But again, like I said in our other piece, it really feels like these sort of considerations were not made when these sort of rules and laws were put in place, because the assumption is made that everybody is going to be really on the up and up, and nobody's going to be in there that has some sort of a toxic personality or some sort of narcissistic type personality. And I'm not diagnosing him, but that is incapable of seeing their own flaws and just running the ship into a wall, saying there's no wall ahead. It's like, no, there clearly is. He doesn't see it, does he? He doesn't see it. He's going straight towards it. Well, what levers can we pull? We don't have any to pull. That seems to be kind of where we're at. Maybe we should get those in place to prevent the next Nanos.
It's really interesting. It's a great question. I don't know. I've never, because know what I'm going to do after this. I got to deep dive in research, right? But I'm really curious too, because so here you have, he's an elected official. And now if he's treated like every other elected official, but he's in this position, that's an interesting dilemma, because if you look at a politician, like say the county supervisor, if the county supervisor there is an elected official, who really is the county supervisor leading, or are they just managing? Are they managing resources? They're managing budgets. They're really in a position where they're not leading. They're managing the welfare, the structure, the infrastructure, all the things we need, water, power, all those things. That's what that mechanism's set up for, the small, local governments.
Mm-hmm.
But Nanos, now here's another person that's in an elected position, just like that, that's in a more of a management role. Now you have someone who's actually elected to lead hundreds of law enforcement, sworn officers and protect public safety at a very personal one-on-one level. That requires I would think, a hugely different skill set and different level of accountability for their actions, because it affects many more people on a much more granular level. So you wouldn't think that the lever to remove a town supervisor would necessarily should be the same as the ability to remove a sheriff who is inept, corrupt, or incapable of performing the function of their job, which is public safety.
Yeah. I mean, Nanos, he's not striking me as someone who's like, maliciously trying to do harm.
No.
He's just
incompetent.
Exactly. It's like, just go retire. Just, go enjoy your time, whatever.
Definitely incompetent messaging, because it's messaging what it comes down to. Who knows behind the scenes? But obviously behind the scenes, all his cops that signed the petition said you're incompetent. So it's one thing, public opinion, as well as internally. You got issues.
What if he was? And I'm not saying he is, but like they essentially, the way it's structured right now, you could have somebody who's in there doing a lot of nefarious stuff, and there's really not a lever to get rid of them.
No.
There is the everybody's like, there's the recall. Good luck with that. Just good luck. Honestly,
I think there's 5 to 10%. I looked up. I did the research on how that would happen. It's like 5 to 10% chance that even would be effective.
It's maybe that's a lever where it's like because it's a set number. It says it has to be X amount, and basically they need 120,000 signatures, verified signatures, not just let's go on a website and click a box. Now we're talking like literally going door to door. What's your name? What's your address? Can I see some ID? And then we got to find a way that we can actually back this up so they can't just go and, you made up all of these. No, this has to be verified.
As I remember it from the research I did, again, I'll probably get it wrong, so correct me, but it has to be 25% of those who actually can be verified that actually voted for him in the first election or voting in the first election.
By the way, if you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Leave your DNA on that like button. It helps me get Hootie snacks for Shadow the Night Owl here. A lot of black sheeps have been night owls before, often because during the day, especially if they grew up in a dysfunctional family, they were walking on eggshells. They were belittled, criticized, put down, insulted. Whenever they tried to be themselves, they'd get punished in some way, or they'd get affection withheld from them. So people learned to not be who they are. But there was one time of day they were able to be themselves. Often that was at nighttime. Could also be early in the morning too. So I've noticed a lot of people that had a traumatic upbringing, they gravitate to either late at night or early in the morning. So I think that's a common experience for a lot of people here. And thank you very much for all the support I've been getting so far. So yes, like that video, like this video.
So they have to verify that they actually voted in the election of him, and it has to be at least 25% of that voting population.
It's something like that. I don't know the exact stat. Yeah, but it is something where it's like, can it be done? Yeah, in theory. I guess my microwave could also power us to get to the moon too, if it were like reprogrammed. But is it going to happen? No. Right. It's just it's a feat that is almost impossible to reach with the amount of manpower you would need to get there. And I think you'd almost need a sheriff in place that's really doing absolutely horrible shit, not just incompetent, to, I think, drive that level of turnout to sign this thing, to really, and I don't know that they have it. I don't know there's enough motivation here to do it. Just being incompetent, I don't think drives that level of outrage.
It's too bad the board is, I mean, you too bad that the board is, like my town I live in here in Virginia, we have a board of supervisors, and each of those board of supervisors are elected by their districts and in our county. And I think we have like 5 or 6 of them in my county that are on the board of supervisors for each of the districts in the county, like Nanos would cover, like our sheriff. You would think that, all right, so the recall won't work or isn't effective. How come the board of supervisors, you can make a simple rule, like it has to be a unanimous decision by the board of supervisors based on what the union says, or based on what, that they could actually call for a vote of no confidence by the board of supervisors to have a re-election. Now, granted, he could run again, and then maybe he wins. All right, but why not just trigger that if in extreme cases, you would think?
Well, and all it would do is, and if they could get the signatures, it doesn't remove him. It just triggers a new election.
Yeah.
So
make it easier.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe the entry level, the point of entry should be a little more realistic when you have a situation like this. Don't make it so like anybody can just keep recalling back and forth. That gets to be a little monotonous and unproductive. But maybe make it so it's not like end of the world type scenario where if you need to pull this lever, you can do it. More like there's smoke and there's fire over here. We need to put it out before it completely engulfs the whole building. Yeah. Well, we got to wait till the fire catches a majority of the structure before we do that. Well, it's really bad right now. Why don't we do it? We got to wait. That's the that's the criteria. And that's kind of where we're sitting.
Yeah, the union's actions on this are the ones that really kind of shifted my focus, because until the union voted unanimously a vote of no confidence against him, I was literally just, he was in the back of my mind of this.
It's not the first time though.
I know, but I mean, it was one of those things. I was disregarding him as just regular noise and upper level management, because I'm so used to seeing it, not just on cases that we cover, but all over. And that's why when I always used to say, no matter what job you had inside the bureau, it didn't matter. If you found a great boss, that's who you hold on to, and you never leave their side because they're that rare. And so with Nanos, I was totally dismissing them. But when you actually have such an outcry internally, that's what really got my attention on this. And yeah, he needs to go.
And that's what I was surprised, because when I saw the headline yesterday, I'm like, well, I know this vote happened a while ago. One did. No, this is like fresh. 2 days ago.
Yeah,
this is a brand new vote.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time that they've gone through and done this poll and gotten this response.
Because it's interesting, because I mean, so you put yourself in those union members' shoes. This is them now saying, oh my God, this might be our chance to finally get rid of him. Yeah. And so that's what triggered it, because they see this as an opportunity to right their own ship as well.
We'll see if it does anything. Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube. We will continue our conversation there.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe.
All right. That's really about it for tonight. A lighter night tonight, because as you can tell there with Tony and Robin, they're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with things to talk about with this case. I mean, Sheriff Nanos, to me, ego-driven, narcissistic, vindictive, holds a grudge, contradicts Ashleigh Banfield, contradicts Brian Entin, contradicts himself. Micromanager, not a good leader. No one in the department has confidence in him. What else is there to say? We broke down his narcissistic tactics when the FBI was investigating him during that RICO case in 2016. And he's had a grudge against the FBI ever since. So that's what we've seen. 6 more likes to 500. So I'm not going to stop until we at least get to 500. So we can just chat for a little while. We're going to wait for it to come around on the guitar here. Right, Kat? Like Alice's Restaurant, when it comes around on the guitar, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half mile from the railroad tracks. Yes, Lori. Brian Entin went back to the scene of the crime. We'll see. I mean, maybe his presence out there might put a little pressure on them all, whatever that means. Alice's Restaurant, Reagan. Ashleigh Guthrie is a Thanksgiving Day song. It was 2 Thanksgivings ago and 2 years ago on Thanksgiving that Ashleigh Guthrie got arrested for littering. Rooster, we did it! 502 likes. You see that, Shadow? We manifested 502 likes. Isn't that good? Like Annie had said to Tommaso, great manifester. Maybe I can be. Maybe I should talk to some of these Wiccans and see what they say about me. Thank you. That is a decade-long look for me. A decade long. Danielle. Nothing wrong with an edible. Shadow and I don't really like edibles, but we don't hate on people that do like edibles. Yes, folks, make sure you got a couple people to shout out here. Check out Anxiety Art Adventures. She has her own YouTube channel. Check out Sable on Blonde. She does her own songs on there. She sings covers. Ashleigh Guthrie. You know what? I didn't even make the connection. There's almost the same name. Ashleigh Guthrie, Guthire, son of Woody Guthrie. You have a great night, Lori. Thanks for helping me get to 500 likes. Leah, we're glad you came back into the chat here. Zen, welcome. Watch out for that Mexican carry. That's why Maureen called him Front Porch Phallic Bandit. And coming from Maureen, that's a lot. There you go, some days, Reagan. It's a classic one. You'll see my knowledge of the old lyrics. You have a great night, Jennifer. Thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be back again live tomorrow night. Tuesday night, I might not be live, by the way. I have an interview to do Tuesday night, unless it gets canceled. Lots of love for Kat as well from across the pond. You got to make sure your other Brits are in the chat, Kat. You got to round them up. Round up Maureen. Where has she been? Good night, Jolly. Thanks for joining us this evening. Have a great night, Danielle. Edible time. I'm interviewing an LCSW. It's actually going to be an in-person interview. Her name is Jessica, and she just got out of an abusive relationship. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it's interesting because she's a professional. So even as a professional that knows about these kinds of things, to an extent, anyone can be fooled or anyone can be sucked in at a time. So maybe we'll get into her background too. At what age is considered elderly? I'd say 75 and above, I guess you'd consider it. But even so, there's like definitely 80, but maybe 75. Right? See, Reagan? It happens. Thank you, Jackie, for being here as well. You were here last night too. Appreciate that. Thank you for all the support I've gotten in here tonight too. 40, Rooster says. Yes, thank you to Miss Kim and Songbits. Demerit for living for not being here. Jay even made a guest appearance. He's another mod that hasn't been here for a while. But living. Mango Pub says, have you heard Ashleigh Guthrie's The Paws of Mr. Claus? It's about the FBI talking to tailing him. I think you're talking to him. No, I've not heard that, so I'll have to take a look at it. And it's called what again? The Paws of Mr. Claus. Because he talks about going to the draft, and he's like, you know, I can't even say what he was saying, or YouTube's going to demonetize me. Because he's like, I want to kill. You have a great night, underdog. Till next time. D, thanks for joining us. Mama, thanks for joining us as well. I do what I can, Reagan. I do what I can. Yes. Yes, indeed, Laura. 10. Shortly after 10. I will be here. And we'll see. We'll see what the universe decides that we should be talking about tomorrow. Reggie. Hi and bye, Reggie. Well, Miss Kim, it could be better, but it's also only 3 hours and 13 minutes today. Sometimes we go 4 or 5 hours. Addis, welcome. Hi and bye, welcome, Addis. Up. Reagan says, Jared, this takes a lot of your effort and time, and that is a gift. So thank you for showing up and being real. Well, it's my pleasure, and Shadow the Night Owl's pleasure as well. Well, they say today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And time is our most valuable resource because it's the one thing we can never get back. So I agree. But I enjoy doing this. I know of no other ways, Star. He sleeps right here on the boom pole until I move him. You have a great night, Tim. Till next time. Addie. Oh, hi and bye, Addie. See, whenever people have the long names, you got to guess what the pronunciation is. So you're Addie. Yeah, pretty good, Reagan. 525. Not too bad. That's right, Wendy. Well, Leah, we'll give you one more shot for the question before we wrap it up here. Thank you so much. Watching from Alabama. Alabama is in the house. Thank you, Courtney. Glad the South is representing. There you go, Danielle. I love it. The energy's focused on Leah right now. That's why. Hey there, Debbie. We're about to wrap it up here, but we'll be back again live a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Maybe even 10 p.m. Eastern on the dot. Right, Laura? Yeah, and I guess that's true. Virginia is also considered the South, isn't it, Laura? I guess I should say the deep South. Alabama is the deep South. Don't think I would consider Virginia the deep South. Chatty Catty, thanks for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow night. All right, everybody. Over and out. Shadow the Night Owl and I are very appreciative and grateful for all of your support. And we'll be back again tomorrow night. So, as they say, I'm in New Jersey, Reagan. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You can stay on the channel, though. Thank you, Miss Kim. You have a great night, Autumn. Thank you, Rooster, for all your help, as always. The inventor of Hootie Snacks, Rooster, by the way. He needs some props for that. Have a great night, Snow Baby. Have a great night, Mike. Yeah, that's about right. Middle South is about correct. The interesting thing is there's actually some places in New Jersey, at the tip of New Jersey, that are below the Mason-Dixon line. You would never think it, but it's true. Have a great night, user. Great night, Reggie, Danielle, Autumn, everyone else, Kat, Jolly. We got to make sure we find George in here too. Yep, sorry, Animal. We'll be back again tomorrow night. about 10 p.m. Eastern. He really is the best, isn't he, Mike? Tina, you are late tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow, though, so you'll have time for us. Thank you, Leah. Hopefully you're here tomorrow night as well. ASMR with Jared is coming to a close. Have a great night, SCG. All right, folks. Till next time.